Hey, this is Eddie Olczyk. You're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mac, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 96 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Nick Manella. How we doing, man?
It's back. We're back. That's all I have to say. I'm so excited. My team doesn't even play tonight, but I've been pacing around all day. I think I had ESPN and NHL Network going simultaneously at 4 a.m. Just, this is what we live for. It's one of the best sports seasons in the world is about to start tonight, and I could not be more excited.
Absolutely. We are recording this on October 12th. Will be released and you'll be listening on October 13th. So tonight is opening night in the NHL, starting with the Pittsburgh Penguins playing the defending two-time Stanley Cup champions, Tampa Bay Lightning. And then for the late night game, we've got the Seattle Kraken making their league debut against the Vegas Golden Knights. So that is what Nick is referring to. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my other co-host, Mac Vogel. How you doing? Perfect description of how tonight's going.
Happy hockey season, baby. I can't even speak right. I'm fired up. I'm pumped up. I'm both. This is awesome. Been waiting for this day for a while. I can finally stop wearing that Empty Better shirt that says waiting for hockey to come back, even though I'm probably still going to keep wearing it. And I love this season too because it crosses over with MLB postseason. You got the beginning of hockey and the finals for MLB, so that's pretty cool. I think it'll be a good one between both games tonight. Should be fun. I love that the Kraken are opening against the Knights because it's the two most recent teams that we've had added to the league. So
what's up with the Knights having to do their first 5 games, or sorry, the Kraken having to do their first 5 games on the road though? It's you would think they would just make the their first game the home opener. No,
I mean that would seem better for money, I would think.
Right?
Maybe there's some. I don't know. Is there other things that happen at that arena already, like concerts and stuff like that, or perhaps they're planning some kind of big extravaganza and they need extra time to. I don't know. It also just could be a coincidence. Like the NHL, their scheduling is always kind of bonkers. It never works out for a couple of teams, you know what I mean? Somebody always gets screwed. So maybe it's just a, hey, freshman, fuck you kind of thing.
Yeah. I know which team always gets screwed by the NHL scheduling, but
too,
we can cover that later.
Yeah. I won't talk about it.
Fuck up. It is worth noting that we have a very big interview guest for today's episode, probably the most requested guest that we have gotten from our fan base. Today, we are joined by Joe Beninati, the voice of the Washington Capitals for 25 plus years, I think, at this point now. So
since I was born.
So we were really fortunate and lucky to not only meet Joe B at the Laughlin Family Foundation golf tournament where we got to, get to know him a little bit, but after that, he agreed to come on. He came on, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. So just a little bit of season preview stuff in there. Just to give you guys a reference, because it was probably mid to late September when he came on, but you will find that in the middle of today's episode. And we just want to say thank you very much, Mr. Beninati, for joining us.
Could not have been a nicer guy about it. Woke up early in the morning to fit it into his schedule and went over the allotted amount of time that he had just to answer our questions. So can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Real quick, before we hop into anything, we're recording this on the 12th, like you mentioned, but people will be listening on the 13th. Do you know what else they're going to be doing on the 13th?
No.
They're going to be going to Don't Know Tavern at 7 p.m., where we will be hosting a watch party for the Caps Rangers season opening title fight.
If you're in the Baltimore area, it's located in Federal Hill, right at the corner of Light and East Fort Ave. So check it out. I mean, it's a great spot. Good local business, great owner. We're very, fortunate and lucky that we're being able to host this there. So come hang out with us, come drink some beers, come eat some wings. $5 wings tomorrow night. You can't beat that. So it's gonna be fun.
I can't think of a single reason not to be there. I mean, you got the wing deal. You got literally one of the most highly anticipated games we've had in a while, obviously, because we haven't had any
Mhm.
games. But people have been talking about this game all summer long. I would love to be there. Obviously, I'm not in town, but if I was there, I'd be there. If you're in Baltimore, you better be there.
Absolutely.
Going to be a good time. So, gentlemen, I think for question of the day, I'm going to save this for the end because some of the questions I have for you guys at the end, I think this ties into. So we'll save that. So before we get into league news, you guys already know this episode is brought to you by Brackish Life. If you take a minute to talk about Brackish Life, if you're like us and grew up on the water and outdoors, then Brackish Life is perfect for you. They have a wide selection of gear from UV shirts to hoodies and hats. It's Real Bay apparel made by Real Bay people. Head to www.brackish.life today to check them out. A little salty, a little fresh, Brackish Life. Nick, I'm going to toss it to you for the league news.
Sure, why not? A bunch of shit to get to today. It's going to be a long one for sure, but we have to get you guys geared up for the season, so deal with it. First things first, this came over the wire to us about 3 hours ago. Avalanche superstar Nathan MacKinnon has tested positive for COVID-19. He says he has no symptoms whatsoever, but is going to miss the season opener against the Chicago Blackhawks. So for any of you fantasy hockey players out there that might have just drafted him, look out. You might have to make some changes. Mark Giordano was named the first captain of the Seattle Kraken. Hats off to Gio. I don't really anticipate anyone else getting that C over him when you look up and down their roster. He had held that role with the Flames previously. Yanni Gourde, Jordan Eberle, Jaden Schwartz, and Adam Larson are going to rotate as alternate captains as well. Saw this one come over the wire the other day. Some not so great news to report. It has been reported by the NHL that Carrie Price has voluntarily entered the NHLPA Player Assistance Program. The article mentioned that there will be no further comment at this time. Obviously, this isn't for us to speculate on. There's a couple things to mind that, that come to mind when you think of the Player Assistance Program, but we just want to wish Carrie the best, and hopefully he's doing what he needs to do to get healthy and, in a good place. So hats off to him and his family.
Yeah, just want to add, it takes a lot of guts to do what he did, especially after, you literally just played in the Stanley Cup Finals. The pressure is on in a big hockey city like Montreal. It's not an easy decision to walk away like that, but if that's what the man needed to do, that's what he needed to do. And yeah, like you said, hats off to him.
I think that's a great point. And I think that playing for the Montreal Canadiens is one thing. Playing goalie for the Montreal Canadiens is that has to be the toughest position in all of sports.
It's quarterback for the Cowboys.
Exactly.
Starting pitcher for the Yankees.
And I will say too, and I'm sure there was some of it, but I was happy to not really see a whole lot of people complaining about this. I know Montreal can be hard on their fan base the same way Toronto can, maybe not quite as bad, but I just kind of, when I saw this, I cringed a little because I was worried I was going to see lots of Habs fans just shitting on the dude or something like that. But for the most part, I think Habs fans were pretty classy about it. This is a guy that's been with the organization for a long time, and that city, that fan base, they've got a lot of love for Carrie Price. So,
and a guy that's just stuck it out with how bad they've been for so long.
Yeah. He's been through thick and thin.
Early 2010s, they had some competitive teams, but they were really not good for 5 or 6 years in there.
For sure. Yeah. Wishing him the best.
Yep. The Rangers have decided to not name a captain at this time. They're going to go with 6 alternate captains instead, because of course, as any organization will tell you, 6 people at the head of an organization are better than one, right?
So much shade. Holy hell.
They also handed out participation ribbons to every one of their players that came to training camp too.
Wow.
Can't lift the cup without a captain.
Tomorrow's going to be fun. That's all I got to say.
True, Mac. You cannot win the cup.
Can't lift the cup without a captain. Who's going to take it first? All 6 of them going to carry it around the ice at the same time?
Yeah, you know someone's dropping it.
You have a point, Mac.
Speaking of a team that did name a captain, the Columbus Blue Jackets, they named Boone Jenner their captain after the departure of Nick Foligno last season.
Why do I feel like this guy's 45? I know he's I think he's maybe not even 30. He's right
He's
around
like
that.
late 20s.
Yeah, he's like 28, 29. But for some reason, I feel like he's been in the league forever. Like just that, I don't know. He's got an old guy name too, Boone. Like nobody's
100% old guy name.
Yeah.
He is 1 year older than I am. So thank you.
How old is he?
Wow.
He is 28.
Bro.
Well, he's captaining the
No.
Jackets, and you're
I
captaining.
don't care what Wikipedia said.
Nothing.
He's 39. He's 39.
He is 39. We just decided.
Love that move, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good move.
I like his game.
4 Seattle Kraken players are in COVID-19 protocol as of today. That is the eve of their season opener, which is going to get started in about an hour here, or is that 2 hours from now?
They're the 10:30 game tonight.
Okay. Their game starts in math from here. Coach Dave Hackstall initially said that Jonas Donskoy, Marcus Johansson, Jared McCann, and Jamie Alexiak had joined Calle Yarncroke in COVID-19 protocol. The team later reinserted Marcus Johansson into their lineup. As we mentioned, Seattle gets underway tonight, and they have their first home game against the Vancouver Canucks on the 23rd. So hopefully all those guys can come back for that, because I'm sure they don't want to miss out on that sort of atmosphere. I think that's going to be an insane game, especially with those two cities being so close to each other.
Yeah, it just kind of sucks. A lot of skill guys in there. I mean, 3 guys who could easily finish top 5 on the team in scoring. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for Seattle to kick off the season, but hopefully these guys are back in the lineup soon.
Even tougher when you consider that most people are taking a look at their depth chart and going, so where is this scoring going to come from?
They don't really have that stud name,
I would love to see Mojo just like have the type of year that he had, like the way he played in the playoffs for the Bruins the year they lost to St. Louis. If he could somehow find that energy again and just play like that all year, like there's your star. I don't know. I think they do have a couple guys that like have the potential to emerge as a star now that they are on a team where like there's that room for them. But that's like what I'm most excited to watch them for this season, is just to see if somebody on that team is going to actually like become the sort of like what we saw with like William Karlsson on the Knights, and like Marchessault and stuff like that were not really big names until they went to Vegas and had the chance to do something. So
yeah, absolutely. Watch him just drop like a 30 burger this year and just put up like 30 tucks.
He totally could. It's possible.
Yeah. The Rangers have granted Vitaly Kravtsov permission to seek a trade. This came after he was left off the season opening roster that comes from Elliot Friedman over at Sportsnet. He also refused his assignment to the AHL and is expected to be suspended within the next couple of hours for not doing that.
He's going to the Red Wings. You heard it here first. Red Wings got a lot of picks. Probably get a second for him, according to our great source, Forever Blue Shirts. I think he's going to go to the Wings. So.
What about the Kings?
Obviously that's an option. I don't know. I just think like Russian, young, Wings have draft picks for days. I don't really need them.
Aren't the Kings going to be without Byfield for like the entire year or something like that?
4 to 6 months, I think.
Jesus Christ,
so maybe, I don't know. They're not really necessarily like the same type of player, but
right.
They're both good.
No, I hear what you're saying.
Speaking of people left off the opening night roster, Evander Kane is not on the San Jose Sharks opening night roster, pending his involvement in 2 issues that are being under investigation by the NHL. San Jose considers Kane a non-roster player pending the results of the league's probe. So this is just going to be a wait and see, I guess. But Mac, I think you posed the question, is he ever going to play for the San Jose Sharks again?
Or in the NHL again, honestly. Like,
I'm so tired of this segment. Tired of this segment.
Right.
It's
this
so
guy's
boring.
name has been on our show for the last 6 weeks in a row or something like that. Like,
what would you rather talk about, this or the Jack Eichel scenario?
They're both frustrating in very different ways. Honestly, I can't answer it. They're both just frustrating.
I'd rather talk about the Canes sucking off Harry Styles on their social media account when he went golfing with Nhlpa the other day.
Oh, he did? I did not.
The whole Canes Twitter is about Harry Styles. It's actually kind of funny. Yeah, kind of typical. I mean, fitting, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know much about Harry Styles other than that he was in One Direction, but
There you go. That's a better
Yeah.
step than most people.
That's all I like. That's all I know.
Actually, we're definitely in the minority on this, but yeah.
100%. Quick Olympic update. The first few players have been named to each country's respective team and are as follows. We're just going to breeze through here real quick. Canada has Sid, McJesus, and Petrangelo. Jesus Christ, that's nothing to slouch at. The Czechs have Pasternak, Voracek, and Palat. The Danes have Bjorkstrand, Nick Ehlers, and Alexander True. The Finns got Sasha Barkov, Mikko Rantanen, and Sebastian Aho. The Germans go with Leon Draisaitl, Moritz Seider, and Philip Grubauer. The Latvians have Rudolfs Balcer, Zemgus Girgensons, and Christians Rubins. The Russian Olympic Committee has Vasi, Ovi, and Kucherov. The Slovaks have Andrei Sekera, Eric Chernak, and Jaro Halak. The Swedes have Landeskog, Zibanejad, and Hedman. The Swiss have Yossi Meyer and Hischier. And your United States of America have Austin Matthews, Patrick Kane, and Seth Jones.
Not going to go into a bunch of opinions on this because we got a long one here. But I will say Teddy Bluger got snubbed from Latvia, and I'm not proud about that. So,
Is he Latvian? I had no idea.
I believe he is.
It'd be really interesting to see all of these teams play each other 3-on-3 with like just those three players.
Wouldn't that be sick?
That would be so cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that, Mac. I like that a lot.
Well, I think we might as well get to why everyone came to this episode today, and that is going to be hearing from our boy Joe B. It was so great to talk to him.
I thought you were going to say yacht lender. Damn it. That would have been funny. Okay,
you beat me to
it.
But before we get to our boy Joe B, we have to talk to our boy yacht lender. So we just want to remind everyone that summer may be over, but there has still never been a better time to get out on the water. Are you looking to finance that new boat or yacht you've always dreamed of? Well, you're in luck because the Yacht Lender is a specialist in marine finance. With partnerships with 15 different banks, he is the right lender for whatever vessel you may be in the market for. Backed by Trident funding with over 25 years as an industry leader, the Yacht Lender has the expertise and know-how to finance the boat of your dreams. You can actually see the Yacht Lender at the Annapolis Sailboat Show this October the 14th to the 18th, and at the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show from October 27th to the 31st. Don't wait. Apply today at yachtlender.com or check him out on Instagram at yachtlender to see others who have already gotten out on the water.
Good job, Nick. Way to keep it together.
It's a little bumpy there, but we landed the plane. Let's go ahead and toss it off to Joe B right now. All right, everyone. Well, I think it's safe to say our next guest, I think, has to be the most requested guest we've ever gotten on the show by our fans. So it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Joe Beninati to the Empty Betters podcast. Joe, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Nick, thank you for the Mr. That's far beyond. You start saying Mr., I start looking for my dad. I appreciate the respect this early in the morning. Thank you.
Of course. So just before we hop into your career and everything, how did you get into hockey in the first place?
Hockey itself, well, that was an easy one. My father, I mentioned him. My dad passed away in January of 2003. And so many things in our world are flying by at the speed of light. But boy, I remember, it seems like it's been not just 18 years since my dad's passed away, but 180 years. It goes slowly. But he was the person who introduced me to the sport. My father was an incredible baseball player, really, really good one, in fact. And some of the most fond memories of my childhood were watching my dad on a softball field with the New York City Firefighters. The team that he played with was just incredible. But they all loved hockey. They were all Ranger fans. My dad was a New York City firefighter in Queens. So there were many times when early, I would say, gosh, this is something you couldn't do, I would think nowadays, but I would have been, 9-10 years old, jumping on the Long Island Railroad by myself, I might add, going into the city, meeting my dad, and then he would take us downtown to Madison Square Garden to watch the Rangers. He was a huge Rangers fan. That's how I really found the sport, fell in love with it, playing street hockey, insisted to my dad that I wanted to be a goalie at age 6, age 7. And he was the bright one who said, no, you need to learn how to skate first. And he made a deal with me. He said, if you can make a travel team before you're 9 years old as a forward, once that season's over, we'll get into the goalie stuff. And he held true to his word. I made that team. I think they called it Mosquitoes or Adams at that time. And I played that 1 year. And as soon as we were done, Dad, let's get the goalie gear. And he lived up to his end of the bargain. That's how I really fell in love with the sport. I learned to skate at age, I was 5 years old in Comac Arena, skating in the dark, pushing a chair at 5 a.m. Loved the game from the first second I saw it.
That's awesome. So what made you want to be a goalie in the first place?
Well, you guys have met me recently. At my size, I wasn't going to beat anybody for a loose puck in the corner. And for whatever reason, I don't know, I was never afraid of a street hockey ball or a hockey puck or a lacrosse ball. So I was a goalie in both of those sports. The only thing that really God blessed me with in that sense was incredible reflexes. I was quick as a cat, and I didn't have any fear factor. So they stuck me in the net all the time.
There you go.
I just, like I said, I loved it. I think goalies enjoy the puck and the ball, the object ball, the puck coming at them, the play coming to them all the time. I'm sure that has something to do with my love for broadcasting as well. But it was all about reflexes. I was pretty quick when I was a kid, and you couldn't get a pee by me some days. Some days you could get a beach ball by me, but we won't talk about those.
I do have to ask, you said your dad was a really good baseball player, and I know you were a pretty darn good lacrosse player yourself. So what kind of swayed you more towards lacrosse than baseball?
Harrison, great question. I was convinced when I went to St. Anthony's High School as a freshman that I was going to play hockey and baseball for that team. And yeah, I made the hockey team as a freshman. I was a varsity goalie. Mission accomplished. Come around to springtime, it was time to make the baseball team as a middle infielder. I was a shortstop, and I was convinced that there would be no problem making that team. From a defensive standpoint, really good. I fielded my position very well. I had a decent arm, and I thought I could play shortstop at the high school level. My concern was, am I going to hit well enough? So the first day of tryouts, I get out there and I actually hit the ball really well, Harrison. For me, I hit the ball really well in the tryout. I figured I'm golden. This is going to be great. I knew I was doing it in the field. I didn't think I was going to hit that well. I hit that well in the tryout. And when you know, the son of a gun head coach cuts me, and I am destroyed. I'm walking off the field. I'm all, oh God, you got to be kidding. I walk back towards the high school field house. And when you know, there's a lacrosse coach. He sees me walking by. He goes, "Hey, aren't you that little freshman hockey goalie?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Have you ever played lacrosse?" I go, "No." And he hands me this butterfly net. And I take a stance like Braden Nhlpa would take a stance in hockey goalie. And he goes, no. We stand up in lacrosse. We stand up. Come on out tomorrow afternoon. Just try it. See if you like it. And I fell in love with it. I really did. And I wound up playing both sports in goal in high school, and tried my darndest to play both in college. Didn't turn out that way in college, but we can get into that because that's how I found the broadcasting role. But really, my love of lacrosse came from a doomed high school baseball tryout.
It's funny. Wow. You don't hear that too often.
It's the truth.
So you mentioned, you got hurt your first year in college, you weren't able to play, and that's how you got into broadcasting. From talking to you at the golf tournament, it just seems like they kind of just threw you out there and then you just took to it like a fish takes to water. Is that how it happened?
Let's just say that I was surprised when buddies of mine were campus radio station DJs. I went to Bowdoin College in Brunswick, Maine, with every intention, fellas, of being an orthopedic surgeon. I mean, Bowdoin doesn't make TV announcers. Bowdoin makes doctors and lawyers. And I went there, and since pretty much age 14, I wanted to help people, and I wanted to do it as a doctor. I love sports. So I figured maybe sports medicine, that would be the way to do it. Surgery, orthopedic surgeon. I was going to be in sports, but I was going to fix your knee or your elbow or your shoulder. And I went to one of the best schools in the country with every intention of doing that. Couldn't play my freshman year on the ice. Buddies of mine, hey, we spin records. We're campus radio DJs, and we also broadcast the sporting events. We do football, we do hockey. Can you help us broadcast these hockey events now that you're not going to be playing? I'm like, you mean like play-by-play? And they said yes. And I went back in time to when I was 10, 11 years old, and we get off the bus and, hey, can we be the 76ers and the Celtics? We pick up basketball. And I was the dum-dum who had all the names in his head. So I called the games while we were playing. And the next day we get off the bus and, hey, we're going to play touch football. can we be the Giants and the 49ers? Dum Dum had all the names in his head. We would call the game while we were playing. And next day it'd be street hockey. Throw the 3 street hockey nets out there. Can we be the Bruins and the Flames? Yeah, sure. Why not? And God forbid I got tired and running around and didn't call the game. My friends were like, what's wrong? Wait a minute. Where are you? So there was always this little, I don't know, thread back to when I was very young that said, you know what, maybe you could do this. So they threw me on the radio and I did 2 or 3 games for Bowdoin College. And all of a sudden, I don't understand how, but a cable access TV station, Brunswick, it was Casco Bay Cable. I don't know how they got my phone number at school, but they ring me out of the blue. Hey, we heard you on the radio. You're pretty good. Do you want to do this on television? I said, sir, I'm not even 19 years old yet. He goes, oh, don't worry about that. He goes, do you know anything about football and basketball? I said, well, yeah. He goes, we do lots of high school football and basketball. You can do those sports for us too. I said, are you offering me 3 sports on TV before I'm 19? He goes, yeah, sure. I'm like, you have a deal. And honestly, fellas, I have no formal broadcast training, journalism, communications training, but I do have 37 years of on-the-job training. So that's how it turned out. And that's really how I came to be the school's radio and TV announcer, a local high school basketball radio, football TV, radio and television announcer, on and on. And meanwhile, I'm taking all these upper level biology courses and getting my brains beat out in school. By my sophomore year, Mom, Dad, I don't know about medical school. Oh, really? What do you want to do? I think I want to be a sports announcer. And I hang up the phone about as fast as you could, but they supported me. I was working in the sports information director's office my sophomore, junior, and senior year in college. By the time I graduated, I walked across the stage. They gave me the SID job that Monday. By the way, you start on Monday morning. I'm like, cool. I mean, most college kids have to go and look for a job. I have one already. I spent 2 years as the SID at Bowdoin. And then this is where the story gets a little bit. Friend of mine was in Portland, Maine. The American Hockey League Maine Mariners were in Portland. Hey, can you fill in on the radio for a pro game for me? I'm like, you want me to do a pro game? Beautiful. I drive down to Portland. Brunswick's 25 miles away. I get on the bus with all these prospects for the then Boston Bruins, and up we go to Sherbrooke, Quebec. And I call my first pro game in the American Hockey League on the radio. And it went pretty well. It went so well that the owner of the team liked me so much that he sort of gassed my buddy and gave him that job that following season. So that wasn't cool. That was sort of a dog eat dog thing, but I didn't plan that. Right. But that's how I got into it at the pro ranks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the American Hockey League, 3 in Portland and 2 in Providence. And then in 1994, I got the opportunity to apply for the Caps on TV with WB50, which is probably before you guys were born. And I got that job, luckily, and the rest is history. I can't believe it's been 27 years in Washington. This is our 25th anniversary for Craig Laughlin and I to be together as a TV team. It's gone by in a blink.
Yeah, I mean, we could ask you 1,000 questions with your experiences since you've started, because you have done it longer than I've been alive. I'll confirm that for you.
I hate to say that because I know it's true.
It's cool though. That's a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, just because we've gotten to know Craig and his family pretty well in the last couple months here, but how has your relationship with Craig evolved as you guys have done more broadcasts over the years together?
It's one of the most popular questions that people will ask of me. I'm not sure if they ask it of Craig, but they ask it of me. You guys seem so comfortable on the air together, so friendly, so much fun. You're always laughing. Is that real? And honestly, guys, it is. For whatever reason, our personalities have clicked from the very beginning. That first year in 1994-95, hey, welcome to the NHL, by the way, and there's a lockout. So I'm leaving one of the best jobs in the American Hockey League for a work stoppage. Brilliant of me. But I didn't work with Locker that first year. I was on the air with Sean Simpson, who's now in the radio industry up in Ottawa, actually. Sean and I did games together in that 95 season. The following year, Locker worked with Al Koken. Al Koken was a play-by-play guy. Kenny Albert had just left then HTS to do Rangers radio. And then in year 1, 2, 3 for me, which would have been 96, 97, the good people at Home Team Sports decided it should be me, Locker, upstairs, Al Koken on the sideline as a ringside reporter, and that's the way we've been for the last 24 plus. So, but Locker and I just clicked. He'll tell you that we're the odd couple, and I don't disagree. We are dramatically different in so many different ways, but they mesh when it comes to being on the air. And you touched on the Lachlan family. They've treated me like family over the last 25 years. I can't say enough good things about Linda, Courtney, and Kyle, and even Locker too. As much as I admit it, as much as I want to dump on Craig, I can't. He's one of my best buddies. He's one of my closest friends. I love him like a brother, and I'm so glad that we do get along well on the air together. One of the reasons why is we choose to keep it. We stay in our lanes. In broadcasting, I'm what, where, and when. He's how and why, and I don't try to twist that. I give him the room to tell us how and why things are happening, while I focus on what, where, and when. And we've been a good partnership, a good marriage since.
So I'm sure you get the question a lot of, what announcers did you look up to, or who do you think the best ones are? And I know you've probably given that answer out a bunch, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a different twist.
Oh, Harrison twist.
In terms of like duos, you talk about you and Craig. Are there any duos in commentating today that you look up to? Like, for instance, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman always get, the Fox NFL games. You had Doc Emmerich and Ed Zoe. They're always good together. Are there any duos that you look up to?
Sure. So many different role models, mentors. First of all, I tell you, I go back, we were given that lineage of how I got into the business. Mike Emmerich and Gary Thorne were the two announcers who really helped critique me the most when I was cutting my teeth in this business in my early 20s. I'm forever grateful to them for the letters that they wrote, for the time that they took with me. They gave me a lot of constructive criticisms. Geez, Joe, you do this great. You should work on this a little bit more of this, less of that. I completely understood where they were going, and they were tremendous with me in that regard. But when you talk about partnerships and, duos that resonate, anybody who's working at the national network level right now and getting the number one roles, whether it be, you mentioned Buck and Aikman, you mentioned Doc and Eddie. The one that stands out for me for a long time would have been Gary Thorne and Bill Clement. Hockey is my first love.
Yeah.
That tandem, first of all, from a sheer voice quality standpoint, I don't know that you find anything better. Gary has the voice of God. Bill Clement was so syrupy, strong, and baritone. Those two voices together were amazing. And yes, in the height of in the peak of their primes, I don't know that you get any better than that. As far as a guy who could bring energy like Gary, and as far as a guy who could break the game down as well as Bill did, that one really jumps out at me. But there are tons more, and I have so much respect for. I don't care if you're the number one crew at the network level or the number 7. You get that opportunity. You're doing it for good reason. I think about falling asleep when I was 7, 8, 9 years old on Long Island, listening to Marv Albert. Marv Albert, to me, from a cadence and rhythm standpoint, was everything that I wanted to be. I'm not trying to do a Marv Albert impression, but the way he handled play-by-play mechanically, I thought was just terrific. His voice was very raspy and very unique. And still is and was all the way into his, early 80s before he retired from TNT. But I always enjoyed the way his cadence and rhythm was delivered. I try to take a page of that from him. I think I'll beg and borrow from a lot of different announcers, but from a tandem standpoint, you could say Summerall and Madden. They were phenomenal together. You could say Michaels and Collinsworth. I understand why people will identify and match people with their play-by-play and color talent. I keep coming back to Thorne and Clement as awesome. I think Eddie O and Doc were terrific for a long, long time together. Anybody that Doc worked with, he would help make better. And that was one thing that he always imparted to me when I was really young and just starting out in the American Hockey League. Joe, it's not about you. It's about the players on the ice. It's about the players on the football field. It's about the players on the court. And it's how well you relate to the analyst that's going to endear you to the viewer or to the listener. And we can talk about the differences between radio play-by-play and television, but as well as you get along with your fellow announcer in the booth, or as well as you get along with 3 and 4 announcers in the case of Al Koken and Alan May, when we are 4 live mics on an NBC Sports Washington show, it's Joe's job to put all of that together, to mesh with everyone, to sync up with everyone, so that it's not just Alan May giving a report from inside the glass and Joe basically holding up his hand and going, all right, back to the play. No, tag up with him, sync up with him, relate to him. You should do that, whether it's with Craig Laughlin, who you've been with for 25 plus years, or if it's you're tossing back and forth to the studio with whomever's back there, or Rob Carlin, or whomever's hosting at that time. You have to have and build those relationships. So it's a great question, Harrison, about the tandems. But one of the great things about TV is that it's a huge team. If I'm having teamwork relationships with the announcers and with the audio guys and with the video guys and with producer, director, and graphics, that's really why I fell in love with television, because of the teamwork. In radio, it's me and the listener, and that's great. And we can overly romanticize that too. But to me, the television aspect is all about teamwork and how well you get along with that partner, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 25.
You mentioned Gary Thorne, and obviously you're talking to 3 Baltimore Orioles fans, so we've certainly had our experience and our love for Gary Thorne. One thing that I love so much about him is that he can so flawlessly do baseball or hockey. I know you've done a lot of different sports, and I'm kind of curious, is there a different approach to whether you're calling a lacrosse game or a hockey game, kind of what goes into preparing differently for different sports?
Absolutely, Mac. And I met Gary when he was working at the University of Maine. Gary is an attorney. I'm not sure that people know that. Gary is just an amazing guy in a lot of different ways. I met him when he was doing UMaine Black Bears and I was doing Bowdoin College Polar Bears, and we were in the same end zone broadcasting. And I asked him if he would help listen to a tape or two, and he did. And he offered very, very strong constructive criticisms, which have helped shape the way I work, even now, some 30 years later. Gary was blessed with an enormous voice, just a beautiful, for what we do in the industry, baritone voice. It cuts through. There's no challenge for him to cut through all that's involved on the television side, radio side, or if he's in a stadium with 100,000 people. That voice is so powerful, it cuts through. I'm not saying that you have to manufacture your voice, Mac. You don't, but you do have to project a little differently. If I'm speaking with you on the podcast, this is my speaking voice. But if I'm broadcasting, my projection changes a little bit. I reach the back of the room. I'm not faking it. I'm not creating a phony radio DJ voice. I'm not puking all over myself. No, I'm not doing that. But I am driving the voice a little differently. And Gary does that naturally. It's just beautiful to listen to. But you asked me the question about baseball to hockey. So I've had the good fortune of calling 8 different sports. But whenever I have the chance to teach or reach out to or discuss sports broadcasting with young announcers, play-by-play people in particular, I tell them to practice both hockey and baseball, because they're at both ends of the spectrum. And baseball is so slow and methodical, and hockey is so fast that your challenge in hockey, and in lacrosse for that matter, you mentioned lacrosse, is to make an extremely fast sport sound slow and under your control. And that takes time. That takes a lot of repetition. That takes a lot of practice. Whereas in baseball, one of the key ingredients in baseball is to learn how to shut up. That pause is not easy for an announcer. We all want to fill the air, but being able to is tough. And in baseball, especially on television, you learn how much of it is enough, when to lay out is the technical term, when not to, when to let the director. Baseball is a wonderful sport on television for the director. He or she cuts so many different shots in any different sequence that they don't all need to be connected to voice, whether it be play-by-play or color analyst or sideline reporter. Learning how to lay out is hugely important in baseball. And the other thing that you learn in baseball is to be conversational, because there is so much downtime, dead time. There is so much walking around the mound, so much stepping out of the box, adjusting batter's gloves. You learn how to have a conversation. I wish I could do more of that in a hockey broadcast with Locker, with whomever I'm working with, but you can't, because the game is the most important thing and it's moving so quickly, and you may go 3, 4, 5 minutes without a whistle and you have 7 or 8 line changes on the fly. There's no room for that conversation. The beautiful thing about football is, unless your team is one of the teams you're working with is no huddle, you do have that play-by-play, tackle made, color analyst, replay, stoppage with the huddle, converse, then the sanctity of the snap, shut up. If you're in a 100,000 seat stadium, shut up on 3rd and 10, let the crowd build that momentum. At ESPN, they called it the sanctity of the snap. So they literally wanted our conversation to end right as the quarterback was getting under center or in position in his shotgun. Let that 115,000 people in Ann Arbor bring you to the snap of the ball, then go. But that's football. It has such a nice formula. It's a perfect television sport. The same can't be said of lacrosse and hockey. They're much quicker in that sense. But I want young announcers to do hockey and baseball. And if you can do those two well, you can do everything in between. Basketball is quick, not as quick as lacrosse. Volleyball is quick, not as fast as lacrosse or hockey. Pick a sport, your favorite. I mean, like I said, I've done 8 of them. Tennis is really unusual. When you're doing tennis, you're not actually calling the play. On television, if you're listening to a US Open event, you hear Fowler laying out the whole time over the actual play, over the actual rally. As soon as the ball goes in the net, then he makes a quick comment, then McEnroe follows, then it's quiet for the serve again. You learn all of those cadences and rhythms the more that you practice. And I want young announcers to put on the caps, mute me and Craig, and do the game themselves. I want you to take a game you have on DVD that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman did, and you're watching that football game, turn the sound off, practice, do the play-by-play. If you're going to be a great basketball player and you want to be a 90% free throw shooter, what do? You practice. You shoot hundreds and hundreds of free throws. If you want to be a great play-by-play guy, well, I don't have the chance to do it, Joe. How can I do it? Well, hit mute. Just keep 20 minutes a day, 25 minutes a day, an hour a day, 10 minutes a day. Just keep hitting mute on things that you have. Go to YouTube, push the play on an Alabama game, have the rosters in front of you, do the game. The more reps you get, the better you'll get, the more you'll have that opportunity, hopefully someday, to be in front of the right person who's hiring.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I do want to switch gears a little bit. Your experience with the Capitals, you've been there since 94, conveniently. That's when I was born. So my entire life. What has it been like to watch this team grow and succeed and fail and succeed through your eyes?
Oh, an amazing ride, really an incredible journey for those 27 years. When I came to town, the team was notorious for playoff heartbreak. And wouldn't you know it, my first experience in the Stanley Cup playoffs in 1995, if memory serves, was a 3-1 collapse to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I should have known a lot right from that. Yeah, the playoff struggles have hurt. The great regular seasons have been wonderful to describe. In the early years for me, leading up to the Stanley Cup run in 1998, those teams were veteran laden. It's great. I see over Mac's shoulder, I see the blue and the bronze and the black. I remember those teams building up to a 1998 Stanley Cup final. And, at that time we could do 2 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So Locker and I did that series. The opening series round with Boston, which was overtime filled in 1998, and just how good Ole Kolzig was, phenomenal in the Ottawa series that we were able to do. And at that time, ESPN had the rights. So we turned the Caps over. We waved bye-bye as they get to a conference final. And just an amazing run against the Buffalo Sabres. And I remember Dominic Hasek, I think, throwing the glove and all that stuff. It was just so much fun to watch. And I was, I knew how good Detroit was. I didn't have a lot of hope there. Truth be told, I was just about starting with the WNBA Washington Mystics during the Stanley Cup final. So I was, I don't know, somewhere on a plane with Nikki McCray while the Caps were playing in a few of those Stanley Cup final games. I didn't expect them to do very well against Detroit. They didn't get a win. I wish they did. All the while, though, I was learning the ropes from incredible players, coaches at that time. I couldn't say enough good things about someone like Dale Hunter from a work ethic standpoint. I was there when Sergei Gonchar was growing up, and what a world-class talent he was that really people didn't know about nor appreciate. Ole Kolzig and Ken Klee and Peter Bondra, those guys were so amazingly personable off the ice. They were so cooperative to us off the ice. The whole team was. I've said this a time or two. I've been doing the Capitals for 7 years, and there may have been 2 or 3 jerks in the whole time. I'm not going to name the jerks, but hockey players are so incredibly down to earth and kind, and they look forward to helping out in the community. They're just, they're wonderful. And I think they're the best athletes on the planet with what they have to do from a size, speed, strength, balance standpoint. Those teams were amazing. And then we had the fire sale. It was time for that team to bottom out. It turned out to be, you're waving bye-bye to the likes of Peter Bondra and Robert Lang. And yeah, Jaromir Jagr, we had you for a few years, but before we even knew it, you were gone. And it was time to draft somebody named Alex Ovechkin. And we've been plumb spoiled since 2004 watching that guy. But building up with the Young Guns team was an adventure. Watching those guys on the ice and especially off of it was amazingly entertaining. There are so many stories that I cannot tell you from off of the ice with that team. Let me just suffice to say it was it's like you were traveling with a rock and roll band at times. They did everything well, and they did it at 1,000 miles an hour. And it always made me wish and wonder, please let these guys have the chance to win a cup. I would like to see Alex Ovechkin someday celebrate, because I've seen him, the way he reacts on just a normal Tuesday night. Let me see what it would be like if he were to ever win. The 2010 team, which was a President's Trophy winner under Gabby, under Bruce Boudreau, after they make that amazing switch in, I think it was 07 or 08, from Glenn Hallen to Bruce, you could just see the team taking its wing and flying. And the 2010 team wasn't ready to win a cup. They were talented enough, but they weren't ready to win a cup, and they flamed out against Montreal. But all the while, I think Locker and I knew we were up for something special. And that next decade was remarkable. I'm hitting fast forward here to answer your question, but the 16 team, the 17 team were as good as I've ever seen. I think both of those teams were cup worthy. I really do think the Capitals should have had a dynasty run in there, 16, 17, 18. Had they been able to beat Pittsburgh in 16 or 17, I was convinced they would have won a cup then. Pittsburgh goes on to win those 2 in a row. That would have, could have, should have been the Caps. The 18 team figured out how to take a punch in the nose and give one back. And once they got past Pittsburgh, once Kuznetsov scores in that overtime game, I knew they were going to win it. No disrespect to Tampa, no disrespect to Vegas, but I knew once they got quote unquote John Walton demons off the back, demons be gone. They exercised that demon in Pittsburgh, and I knew they were ready to win. The 18 run was awesome in so many ways. The 18 run was sad because at that time, I do believe it was that season that Locker had mentioned to me that Linda had been diagnosed with her cancer. So the job that Craig did and has done since 2018 up until now, with all that's weighing on him, and thank goodness Linda is doing well, and I love seeing her smiling face whenever we get together. But he was going through some really, and she obviously, the whole family was going through some really tough times there. And the job he kept doing on the air was brilliant. I mean, with all that was on his mind, I'm sure it was a sanctuary. It was a chance to get away from your troubles and all, but he was awesome. And we didn't have a chance to connect during that Stanley Cup run because Nhlpa had been diagnosed. He needed to stay home. So, at that time we start doing pre and post game shows for NBC Sports Washington. I was on the road with the team with Alan May and with Tarek El-Bashir in Tampa and in Vegas. Locker was not. We had the chance to get together afterwards, and it's one of my favorite stories to tell among a gazillion from winning the cup. And if you've heard this one before, guys, please indulge me. And I don't mean to bore you, but we were at dinner in the city. It was Courtney, Linda, Locker, and I, and maybe one of Court's friends. And she's checking out social media. Hey, the cup is at Cafe Milano. Really? That's only a few blocks away. Let's go. Because we hadn't seen the team since they had come home from Vegas. Locker and I strong arm our way upstairs to where the guys are. And it's one of the few times where they were not surrounded by a gazillion fans. All the fans were outside on the street, couldn't get in. Locker and I get upstairs. We're high-fiving, hugging. The guys are feeling no pain. It's an amazing party. There's the Stanley Cup. And Locker and I are both of the school of thought that we were trained, you don't touch that thing unless you win it. And I have never touched the Stanley Cup when as I walked into that room, nor had Locker. One by one, the Caps, John Carlson stands up and goes, Joe, pick it up. No, John, thank you so much. This is wonderful. I can't tell you how happy I am for you guys. Joe, pick it up. No, I can't do that. Braden Nhlpa, pick it up. Tom Wilson, pick the effing thing up. Alex Ovechkin, all of them, pick it up. It was so surreal and so cool. Yeah, I picked it up. I picked it up chest high, and a lot of the weight of it, the damn thing is in the ass end of it. Locker went overhead with it. I have the pictures to prove it. I was surprised that he did that, but it was so amazing that the guys wanted us to feel part of it like that. The hair on my arm stands up when I think about that story, because that was the team recognizing us. That was the team showing us respect when they didn't have to. Amazing. So the whole run, we've seen the whole gamut of emotion. Right now, I'm looking forward to the start of a new season. I do feel like, if I'm going to use an analogy, guys, I do feel like the plane is starting to land. I don't think it's spiraling, but I think the plane is starting to land. Mm-hmm. And we've been really lucky when you think about it. And things like this in a salary cap age, they are tending to be cyclical. Pittsburgh and Washington fans have been flat out really fortunate for a long, long time. And I think both of those teams' planes are descending. Let's see if they're able to pull up and how hard and how well they can climb in a very tough division. But the Capitals have treated me to a lot of incredible games on the ice, to emotion off of it. It's going to make for a really good book one of these days. I think Locker and I have to be up for that pretty soon. And maybe during a 25th anniversary, we can get our heads together and start putting pen to paper.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that assessment that you just made. And, I know we're keeping you kind of long here and we're running out of
No, don't
time.
worry about it.
But I do want to ask you before we wrap up, is there one specific call that you would say is your favorite? I mean, I know you've had some legendary ones that'll probably be tied to certain moments forever, but is there one in particular that stands out to you? And is it Wowie Kazowie for Craig?
No, it's not Wowie Kazowie. I could have punched him in the head on Wowie Kazowie. I couldn't believe that came out of his mouth. There have been a lot of those instances for both of us over the last 25 years. I can't believe you just said that. Yeah. I don't know that there's one, Harrison. I really don't want to pin it to just that. I never wanted, it's just my belief. I don't have signature calls and catchphrases. I never wanted to do that. So many of my broadcasting heroes who were network level, front and center play-by-play callers didn't have a, hey, what do you say? Or a jumping jack flash, or anything that was going to be signature to them. Holy cow. I didn't want to do that. I wanted you to recognize me for as much of the calls as you can remember. I don't want game 6 of a Stanley Cup final game, which I haven't had the privilege to call, but I don't want game 6 of a first round playoff game to sound markedly different than a Saturday night against Pittsburgh in the regular season. I want those to all be broadcast at a certain level. And I want to give them emphasis that's due. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that game 6 of the opening round against the Pittsburgh Penguins is going to sound like games that we did with Monday night with the Atlanta Thrashers. I'm not going to say it's going to sound the same intensity, but I need to give it the same respect. I think the players deserve that. I think the listeners, the viewers deserve that. Locker and I don't Cadillac in and just, ham and egg a game because it's a Thursday night against Calgary. That's a long-winded way of me saying that I don't want you to specifically remember great calls. I'll leave that for the editors. I'll leave that for you three to sift through an awful lot of games now. I'm sure better than 2,000 games now, where you could sit there, I hope, and pick out a random game in 1997 and compare it to a random game in 2015. And you know what? And go, geez, those guys are pretty much the same and consistent then and now. That's what I want to be recognized for. I don't want to be recognized for the hallelujah moment of Alex Ovechkin scoring his 700th goal in New Jersey. Yeah, I hope we treated that right. I hope we treated 500 against Ottawa right. I hope we did that well. I remember, and I know Simply Sensational is going to go down in history as one of the greatest goals. I'm glad people like the goal call. I didn't manufacture that. That's just what came out of my mouth that time. You could not prepare for that particular play in, 2006. And I've said this before on a number of different shows. That was the last goal in a blowout win on the road. I think it was a day game. And there wasn't much atmosphere inside of Gila River Arena at that time, but we were treated to one of the greatest plays of all time in the NHL. I mean, that goal is pretty damn hard to beat. And I'm pleased with the way the call went. Yes, people are going to identify me with that for a long, long time. I've been the luckiest guy in the world that I've been the soundtrack to Alex Ovechkin. No disrespect to any of the other players, Nicholas Backstrom, Mike Green, you pick the player. The great goalies that we've had a chance to call, anybody. But this is Alex Ovechkin. This is a guy who could quite easily be the greatest goal scorer of all time. I think he already is, regardless of who he has to still catch, including 99. You, dum-dum, Joe, you have had the opportunity to call his career. How blessed have I been? So there have been so many incredible moments that he's treated us to. I don't want to be just pinned to one signature moment like that. I just don't. I remember, here's a random double overtime win in New York City in a playoff series. Jason Chimera scores a weird goal on a bouncing puck past Henrik Lundqvist. I remember that game very fondly because I thought Locker and I really had great play-by-play and color chemistry, and that game had everything. It had the New York atmosphere. It had the double overtime. My God, the Caps actually won a multi-overtime game. There haven't been many of those, but that was one that I do remember. And I remember great chances and great goalie saves. And that one, nobody's going to sit there and look through the whole list of games that we've called and pick that one, but that one does stand out. I remember that being a specifically great call. I want to hope that all of them are. So I don't want to just sit there and circle ones for you or throw darts at them. I would like to think that you feel that we're pretty consistent, that we've worked at a really high level for a long time and we consistently deliver, whether it's, like I said, Tuesday night in San Jose or game 7 of a playoff series against the Rangers. I want those games to be called with the same professionalism.
What are your expectations for this Caps team coming into this season? I know you mentioned it earlier, that Metro division hasn't gotten any easier, and it just seems like every big ticket free agent wants to land there. So what expectations do you have for the team this year?
I still like this team a lot. I know Father Time is catching up to them, and Father Time's undefeated. I get that. I still think that there's something to be said for experience. I think this team knows how to dial it up and dial it down at the right times. Dial it down when they don't have to exert as much energy. Dial it up when they do. For me, I think they're as talented as you get on the top 2 lines. I want to see how time will affect Nicholas Backstrom. He's my first concern right now. I'm under the impression that he's not necessarily going to be on the ice when we start training camp. So there's a concern there because Nick looked very uncomfortable at the end of the season that we just concluded. I can't believe the injuries befell the team at the time that did last year, because I thought Washington was playing pretty well up until 3 weeks to go in the regular season. Then 8 got hurt, 19 got hurt, 92 got sick, 77 got hurt, Wilson got hurt, Carlson got hurt. It was, where is Samsonov available? All that happened in the last month of the season. You weren't going to beat Boston that way. No way. And you didn't last long against the Bruins. Can those guys stay healthy for a while there? Thinking back to 16, 17, 18, 19, the Caps were often among the most healthy teams in the league. Is this a product of age, or is it just bad luck that they're getting these injuries? If those injuries crop up again, that's going to be hard for this team to be in the top 4 or 5. As good as the Atlantic is, guys, is the Metro going to get 4 teams into the playoffs? I think the Atlantic may even sneak in with a double wild card. You have to concern yourself about that. We're a long ways away from that, but I look at Carolina's roster, I look at the New York Islanders roster, and I can't help but think that those are top teams in the Metro. I think Washington and Pittsburgh can contend with them. Are the Rangers going to improve? The Devils are climbing. Philadelphia made a lot of moves in the offseason. That's a vastly improved defense. And I don't think Carter Hart can be that bad. I really like that young player in the goal. Philadelphia just seems to have a way of chewing up goalies. I don't know why, but I expect Carter Hart to be better. How high will Philly climb? I expected Philly to win the division last year, and I like their defense. I don't know what the heck went wrong with it, but they sure as hell have revamped it with Ristolainen and Yandel and Ellis. I mean, that should be a much improved defense. I think the only team you can spot in the Metro and say, well, maybe next year is Columbus. And I know that team will rebuild. I like their management there very much. And for a while, I thought they had it going, and now they've torn things down and things have occurred on and off the ice. But I think the Metro is going to be rough. And I think the Atlantic is a really, really good division. So when you look at the Eastern Conference, it's going to be a dogfight for those 8 playoff spots.
Yeah, I think everything you just said. Carolina's loaded, the Islanders are loaded, and they just got Choro, I think, yesterday, and I like that move for them a lot. So should be an interesting season coming up. We'll see what it has in store for us, but
always twists and turns.
Yeah, it's never easy.
I think everything starts with health for the Caps. I just do, Harrison and Mac and Nick. I do. I just think if they're healthy, they have the skill set to do really well. Will there be an earlier than expected sighting of Connor McMichael or Alexei Protas? If Backstrom is going to miss some time, I hope he doesn't, please, because I think in many ways, Nick is the most valuable Cap. I don't know that there's a player who has more responsibility on his plate than Nick. Maybe John Carlson, but I think Nicholas, from an all-around standpoint, is so vital. And he looked very uncomfortable last year, and I don't know that he's feeling much better. And that worries me at the outset of what we hope will be an 82-game season. And yeah, there are going to be breaks in there, but I mean, Nick is going to be asked, I would assume, if he's healthy to play in the Olympics. He could use those 3 weeks off, couldn't he? I mean, if we're healthy, I like the way the lineup stacks up. If we're not, then things become more and more interesting. Our depth will be challenged, and you're going to see Faravari get a role this year. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I know the club is really high on the work of Trevor Van Riemsdyk. I think he's going to play as much as possible. I thought Nick Jensen came on really well. So the bottom of that defense core looks nice and solid. How will Michael Kempney return? He's such a beautifully fluid skater. When you watch him, you probably think he's 100%, but he's had 2 major injuries in back-to-back years. Who is that 13th forward going to be? Is it going to be Janssen Fialbi? Is it going to be Beck Malenstein? Is it going to be Pino? Can you even afford a 13th forward? I mean, with the way the salary cap is, I think there are going to be days when the Caps don't carry 23 on their roster just due to financial reasons. How big of a leap will Samsonov make? That's a player with enormous talent. And I hope as he matures, underline, please, italicized, 24-point type, matures, he can be a star in this league. But he's got to mature and groom himself properly and with the help of others off the ice. It's going to be a fascinating year. I just wish, you've been drafting so low, not high, for a long time. Your prospect pool is not nearly as highly rated as, let's say, Ottawa or LA. So where are those young kids going to come from who are going to be impactful? Are you going to see the emergence of 4th and 5th round draft picks all of a sudden helping the Caps at the NHL level? We'll wait and see. I mean, that's part of the mystery of it all. That's one of the great things about a new season. Everybody has that hope. But I think for the Caps, they have hope and they have question marks, wondering who, what, where, when. And if they keep the group that lines up on opening night, assuming that Nicholas is ready, they can contend with anybody. It's just how long can they keep that band together?
Yeah, you nailed it. There's definitely a lot of question marks going into a new season. We got preseason hockey only a couple weeks away now too. It's gonna
couple
be
weeks.
Know it.
Mac, slow
Next
down.
week,
Couple weeks. I have a game to broadcast this Sunday.
Oh man,
I have football on Saturday. I have hockey on Sunday. No BS.
Oh my God! Before I know it, even yeah.
No, the guys are on the ice. I want to say they do their medicals tomorrow. They do a lot of their physicals with the doctors and nurses tomorrow, and then they'll be on the ice Thursday, Friday, and they're playing a game on Sunday. It's weird the way training camp works.
Yeah, we're doing this interview on September 21st. We got opening night puck drop, I believe, the 13th against the Rangers. So that's gonna be a highly watched game. So that'll be fun. But yeah. Joe, we really appreciate you joining us. I mean, this is awesome, and a lot of our guests have been requesting you. So,
guys, my pleasure. Let's do it again soon. You have the number. You know how to get in touch with me. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Big thanks to Joe for chatting with us. Such a funny guy. I mean, when he starts to open up and come out of his shell, I don't know if there's a more entertaining person to be around.
Yeah, and he had really great things to say too, just for like future broadcasters out there or anybody who's thinking about kind of going down that career path. He had a lot of really cool stuff to say as far as, how to just little tips of how to make it far in that industry. And I liked what he was saying along those lines a lot.
GOAT. And as a Pens fan, I still stand by that. I love Joe Beninati. I think he's one of the best commentators of all time. Nick, I know on your hype video that you made for us, which by the way, great job on that. That call in the Sabres playoff game, was it Briere who buried that one?
Chris Drury. Yeah.
Chris Drury, wrong right-hander. Sorry. Yeah, that was just electric. I've had so many calls that I've listened to growing up. The whole 2009 Cup run for the Pens on Versus, that whole series against Carolina, he called that. That was just so cool to actually be able to meet him, talk to him, sit down with him. So thank you, Joe. We really appreciate it. And before we get to our division previews, I think Mac has a word for our listeners.
Yep, I know we're all excited for those division previews, but before we move on, we just want to remind you that this season, all of our picks are powered by SharpRank. SharpRank created the first ever cross-sport rating system, ranking bettors from any sport on one leaderboard that anyone can dominate. Even you. SharpRank is backed by some of the biggest names in the sports gambling world, such as BetMGM, Betway, and Sports Illustrated. Download the free app for iPhone and Android today. And without further ado, let's get into it, fellas.
All righty. Pacific Division to start it off. We're going to go through these as quick as we can. Harry, why don't you get us rolling here with the Ducks?
The Anaheim sucks.
The Anaheim sucks. Yeah, that's kind of the name of the game here. So going into this season, they are plus 10,000 to win the division. Coached by Dallas Eakins, entering his third year. Last year, they went 17, 30, and 9 and finished 8th in the Honda West division and did not qualify for the playoffs. I think one storyline that we were all a little surprised by over the offseason is that Ryan Getzlaf stays still. There was a lot of speculation about him leaving. He's been their captain for years. He's been there since the 2003 draft. So he's staying put. But boys, I think when I look at this lineup, a lot of young talent, a lot of potential, but I just don't think it's there yet. There's been a lot of questions about John Gibson's future. An extension is going to have to come here soon, or he's going to be leaving town. So I just don't think that this team is there yet. And in terms of the future, they just need like one or two more pieces on the back end, in my opinion. I mean, they have Drysdale as their bright shining star on the back end, but I'm not a huge Lindholm fan. Manson's decent. Fowler's getting up there in age. I'm not even going to comment on Shattenkirk. Jacob Larson, not bad. I mean, it's decent, but Drysdale's really the only one back there that I see making a big splash in the future. I think the one guy that we're all looking forward to watching this year is Trevor Zegras. I think he's the box office player, as Stephen A. Smith would say.
Without a doubt. And I think, we're looking at these lineups courtesy of Daily Faceoff right now. They have him and Max Comtois slotted on the first line with Ricard Raquel, which don't sleep on that. If those guys get clicking, if Zegras can pick up a top center role, that could be dangerous. But Harry, I completely agree with you. They need more pieces. They're not there yet, but some bright young talent here in Southern California.
Yeah, I think all three California teams took a step last year to like kind of start getting competitive again. I think I'd wager that the Ducks are still the farthest from being a good hockey team out of, between them, the Sharks and the Kings. They finished last in a lot of major offensive categories last season. And I think, it's not going to be a whole lot different this year. Like you said, they didn't really do enough to take like a giant step, but I don't have a whole lot more to add. I think Zegras is going to be exciting to watch. Troy Terry, I like Max Comtois. He was pretty good last year at times, but this team is definitely not making the playoffs this year, in my opinion.
And Max Jones and Sam Steele are young guys that you can keep your eye on too. Jones I think he's done a great job of just acclimating himself to the NHL over the last 2 to 3 seasons. He sort of came in around when Troy Terry did. So I think it's good for them to sort of have, older guys like Silverberg, Henrique, and, even as old as Getzlaff that are going to be there to help these younger guys. Troy Terry and Max Jones are still young, and so are obviously Zegras and Drysdale and Sam Steele. So I think that'll be a huge help for them as well.
For sure. I'm just curious, do they sell at the deadline or not? Do they get Gibson extended? Because he is their best player on their roster, and there's going to be a lot of teams gunning for good goalies around these times. So curious to see what happens with Anaheim, but we're going to move on to the next team, the Calgary Flames, who come in at plus 900 to win the division. Coached by Daryl Sutter in his second year. Last year, they went 26, 27, and 3. And finished in 5th place in the Scotia North Division and did not qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs. When you look at this team, I see a lot of question marks, in my opinion. This will be their first full season under Sutter, so that's worth noting because, I think coaches don't really get to implement their systems entirely when they're midseason transfers. So curious to see what they can do under him this year. Giordano leaves. That's a huge storyline. Their captain, their ace defenseman. That's a tough one to lose. And, you got to get your forwards back to form. I mean, we saw a couple down seasons here recently from Johnny Gaudreau. Lindholm popped off that first season he came over. That first line was clicking, and now all of a sudden the production trails off a little bit. So, that first line of Gaudreau, Lindholm, and Tkachuk, they're going to have to pretty much carry the team, in my opinion, when I'm looking at this roster. I think Monahan has to get his production back up to where it was that season where the Flames looked like they were going to be a serious contender. And then MacKinnon ended their hopes and dreams in overtime on that wicked snapshot down the left wing. What do you guys think? I mean, I know I only touched on the offense, but I want your guys' thoughts.
I think the best way I can describe the Calgary Flames is that, to me, this is a team with a little bit of an identity crisis. Like they don't quite know who they are. And what I mean by that is like, they've got a lot of really, from what I can tell as a fan, like strong personalities on the team. You got a guy like Matthew Tkachuk, Dylan Dubé, Milan Lucic, like all these guys who like are they either have a big name for themselves or they're trying to make a big name for themselves. Then you got Johnny Gaudreau, who's like, there's trade rumors surrounding this guy kind of all the time. They brought in a new goalie, Markstrom, and Vladar as well. Like you don't really know like what you're going to get. And I feel like that kind of hindered their ability to like be a good team last year. I'm not sure if it'll be much different this year. I don't see this team making the playoffs. The defense is suspect to me. Like, I don't think
very average.
Noah Hannafin's good. Chris Tanev as like your second guy on your first D pairing is like, that to me is not good enough. Zadorov, I've always kind of liked. I think he's a big rig D man that can make you pay physically, but like, I don't know. Actually, I'll say Rasmus Anderson's kind of good too, but
It's a decent decor. It doesn't pop out at you.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're all just like, oh yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not one that turns a ton of heads. And Mac, I completely agree that this team has an identity crisis. And for that reason, I'm honestly not going to be surprised if this team looks completely different after the trade deadline.
I agree with that.
I like the coaching move last year, though. I
was
think
good.
That is a good idea for them.
I think this is going to be one where we see Gaudreau or Monahan not on this team next year. I think it's going to be one of those names that gets moved. I don't think they should move a guy like Dylan Dubé or Mangiapane right now. I don't think that would be the right thing for that team. Michael Backlund's been there for, feels like years.
He'll get moved, I feel like, as a nice third center, second line center, maybe on an injured team.
Yeah. And there's not a ton. I mean, there is a ton you could say about this team. There's not really a ton of concern looking at their special teams. The power play, Tkachuk, Monahan, Gaudreau, Lindholm, Anderson, that's, nothing to sneeze at right there. That's pretty sick. Goaltending, Jacob Markstrom and Darth Vladar backing him up. I don't hate that at all. I think the big question there is, how many games are you going to ask Vladar to play, and can he handle it? So,
right.
I'm going to have to agree with you guys. I do not see this team making the playoffs. And pun intended, I think we could see a fire sale at the deadline.
I think it is worth noting. It is worth noting, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but with the Zibanejad extension in New York, the two teams that we just talked about are looked at as probably like two of the top 4 destinations for Jack Eichel to land at. So that's something to keep an eye on here in the coming days.
Could you imagine Battle of Alberta between McDavid and Eichel?
Sick.
That would be fun. That would be
cool.
Pierre Maguire's lying on his back, just painting the ceiling right now.
I think Eichel could fit in well in Calgary. I actually could see that.
Yeah.
I just hate the Western Canadian markets. You never get a lot of buzz on the, big national media channels, and I would never get up to stay up late enough to watch them. So I'm selfish in that regard. But we're going to move on to my favorite team that I win so much money on all the time, the Edmonton Oilers. Complete sarcasm if you're new here. Coached by Dave Tippett, entering his 3rd season. Last season, they went 35, 19, and 2, made it to the 2nd round before they got absolutely swept to the Winnipeg Jets in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't even know what to say. I really don't. They bring Hyman in. I like it. They've obviously got 2 of arguably the 3 best players in the world on their team, so it's kind of hard to knock them on that. I think the back end is good. I think in terms of what they got in net, it's probably my biggest question mark with Mike Smith. I'm not so sure what to think. Mikko Koskinen as well. He's shown glimpses of excellence, but a little bit inconsistent here and there. Can he really fit into a number 1 role and earn it? I don't know. I don't know, guys. They're going to come in second, I think, but I just don't think they have what it takes to really make a serious push still.
I do really think that I think make a great point. This goaltending tandem is such a coin flip. I could see Smith and Koskinen holding their own this year, being the backbone of this team and propelling them to a division title or something. Or I could see them being a train wreck and for the Oilers literally needing to make a move by the 2nd month of the season because it's such a disaster. I could see either one of those things happening.
I think the big thing to remember, if you're the Oilers or if you're the Leafs, you're not playing just the Canadian teams this year. And that helps the Oilers out a little bit because they're in the Pacific, which, let's be real, is not that strong. It screws the Leafs. I mean, it absolutely ruins them. Here, if you're the Oilers, Mac, I 100% agree that this goaltending, duo is a coin flip. I mean, you could tell me one of them was starting at any point in the season. I'd be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But it just, I think we're going to see a big, nearly a 50-50 split out of these 2 guys. And I don't know if that's going to help this team or hurt this team. I will say I love the top D pairing, Nurse and Barry. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. That's at least on paper, that's got to count for something. And hopefully that, bringing in a guy like Duncan Keith helps. Keith and Cece as your second pair makes me a little bit scared because if anyone's
which Cece
forward,
do you get?
Well, if anyone's forwards can skate over 15 miles an hour, you're screwed.
Well, and it's we saw CC in Pittsburgh last year. He had a great season. That's why he kind of earned his contract with the Oilers. But Are you going to get the CC that you got in Pittsburgh, or are you going to get the CC that you had prior to that? I mean, it really depends. And Duncan Keith ain't getting any younger. I mean, he's still a decent defenseman, so I'm not going to knock it. But we're all in all, I think we all agree that the goaltending is suspect. The decor is, even though they've got Mac's favorite player, Slater Cuckoo.
I was just about to say that guy is going to propel this team to great heights.
Right.
Sorry, Norris Trophy candidate Slater Cuckoo.
Yes,
exactly.
Thank you.
Yes.
Here's what I'm going to say. And Max said it last episode, and I completely agree. Every great Stanley Cup team has a third line that can, make a difference in a game. When you see this third line, do you think that it can get them into the third round of the playoffs at least?
No.
Warren Fogle, Derek Ryan, Zach Cassian.
I don't see it.
Mac and I had the same answer. It was just with different words.
Yeah. He spelled it out and you just said no.
I was just letting all the listeners know specifically who we're doubting right now.
And it's like, I like all of those players. I just, right now, what has this team's problem been for the last 3 years? Forward depth. They just don't have the depth to support 97 and 29. They don't have the gut, the stuff to back them up. So
I remember seeing a rumor too, at the beginning of training camp, that it was something along the lines of Kyle Turris is going to have to do some really spectacular shit at camp to make this team. And here he is on the fourth line. So to me, that tells me they were like, all right, I guess this is the best we can do. Kyle Turris, fourth line.
It just doesn't seem like a
Brendan
forward.
Perlini,
forward core, bottom six doesn't inspire a ton of success.
Devin Shore, they're all just kind of
Yeah, I agree. I still say they finished second in the division. I think when we had Anthony on from Forever Blue Shirts, he said it perfectly. It's the Knights, and then it's the Oilers, and it's everybody else. And I think he was spot on when he said that, and that's exactly what I think will happen this year. So I think the Oilers are a playoff team. I think they can get to the second round. I don't really see them going much farther beyond that, to be honest with you. So
I see them sneaking in.
Well, if they give them second, it's not really sneaking, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
They're in a weak division.
I'll call it sneaking in because the point total is going to be way off.
Honestly, looking at this division again, now I'm like, shit, the Flames might make the playoffs just because who the fuck else is going to,
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we're going to move on to the next team, who I think could be a little bit of a sleeper to be a Stanley Cup playoff contestant this year. We're going to move on to the LA Kings. You know how I said that the Wings were a fun team? The Kings give me fun team vibes. A lot of spoiler vibes here. Coached by Todd McClellan, entering his third season. Last season, they went 21, 28, and 7 and finished sixth in the division and did not make the playoffs. When you think of this team, there were some juicy offseason extensions. They extend their goalie, Cal Peterson, which I think is a great move. They still got Johnny Quick there backing him up. Kopitar, I mean, he's still, a really, really good player. He's been on a shit team the last couple of seasons, but I don't really see his production trailing off much, especially if the Kings get some stuff going. I love how they got Victor Arvidsson and Philip Deneau. I think those are two guys that have grit,
two
skill.
Best moves of the offseason went to the same team.
Honey Badgers.
Yeah.
Honey Badgers with skill, like that Brad Marsh. I'm not comparing them to Brad Marsh.
That first line of Arvidsson, Kopitar, Brown that is a pain in the ass line to play against. And who matches up well against them? Nobody, because they're just a thorn in your side kind of line.
Don't sleep on 34 either on the third line. Our boy Artie Party Kaliev saving the day from the World Juniors.
I love him too, because he always looks like he's having so much fun out there. He's kind of got that Ovi thing where the guy just loves to score goals. It doesn't matter how big the goal he's scoring is. It could literally make a game go from 3-1 to 4-1 or some shit like that. And he's just got the biggest smile on his face. He looks like he's having a great time. So that's a player that, in my opinion, is good for the game of hockey.
What do you guys know about this Kachev guy? I don't know much about him. Vladimir Kachev? Anybody?
You just said the only two things I know about him.
Yeah, his name and nationality.
I don't know. I feel like I should know something about him, but I don't. I mean, we're the hockey analysts here, so I guess we got to do our research. But.
Yeah, I think I just exposed us. But
do you think this is where Athanasiou plants his roots and finds a consistent role here?
No, I there's a lot of whatever. I'll call him double A. There's a lot of double A hype wherever he goes. You know, he's electrifying. He's got speed. He has that like, you know, nasty OV tape job and just burns guys, but that's all he does. I mean, and I know that's like maybe taking credit away from him, but you know, when you get in the Stanley Cup playoffs and you're playing against, you know, big tough teams, the Lucics, right? The Cassians, you got these big guys who are going in the corners. He's not the guy that I want there going in the corner. So I don't really see him really doing much. I think Kempe is a great player. He's shown flashes of brilliance in the past. They have him listed on the fourth line, which I'm a little surprised about. But
yeah, he may end up moving up from there. One thing I think we need to talk about here, though, they have some forwards that have some firepower. We talked about their goaltending, Cal Peterson and Johnny Quick. That's not a bad tandem to have. Here's where they're going to run into some trouble is their defense. Let me just go through this for a quick second. You have Drew Doughty, which great player. Love it. But from here, it gets much worse. With Drew Doughty, we've got Mikey Anderson. Then we've got Alex Edler and Sean Walker. And then we've got Tobias Bjornfot and Matt Roy or Matt Waugh. I'm not sure if it's like one of those, but
we'll go with
that's the thing right there is the fact that you're not sure.
Yeah. Like, who are those last two guys? Tobias Bjornfot and Matt Waugh.
Little research I did, and I don't know them either, so I don't want to act like I did. Bjornfot and Anderson are two young guys on the team. So, you know, maybe not. I feel like when you hear those names, sometimes it's like AHLers who creep up at the age of 30 or something. You know, they are young guys. I think Edler's washed, to be perfectly frank with you. Their defense sucks, for lack of a better term, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, their prospect pool is so deep, but you kind of feel like a lot of them are forwards. You know, you have Turcotte, Kaliev, Velarde, Byfield, you know, Kempe, all these guys. So it'll be interesting to see if they try and, you know, add some, you know, young guns to the defense core. But I think we can all agree that this team is not going to make the playoffs.
I think they can be a fun team. Like I said about the Wings, I think they can be a fun team, but I don't really trust the defense that much. Last thing I'll say, remember a couple years ago when the Jets were going into the season, they had Josh Morrissey and then everybody else, it was like, who the fuck are these guys? That's exactly how I feel about this on the back end. So I'll leave it at that.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave it at that. They are plus 1,800 to win the division. Forgot to mention that, but we're going to move on to our next team, the San Jose Sharks, coached by Bob. How do you say it? I always forget.
Bugner,
not Bogner. Okay. Bugner going into his third season. Last season, they went 21, 28, and 7 and finished 7th in the division. Big storyline right now in the NHL. What's going to happen with Thomas Hertl? That's really been the name of the game for the Sharks so far. So not great drama to start it off here. I mean, what happened? You know, like, I feel like when they got Carlson, everyone was like, holy shit, they're going to be a force to reckon with. And we've seen nothing but mediocrity. Actually, scratch that. We've seen nothing but like just atrociousness ever since then.
The contract killed them. I mean, paying Burns and Carlson, and at the time, you know, Thornton and Marlowe, and it wasn't, you know, a recipe for success. And, you know, it sounds great to bring in that, you know, all-star video game player, but it does kill you down the road if you don't get it done right away.
Yeah, I see this team kind of being like sellouts at the deadline. I don't know. I'm not sold on either of the goaltending situations. I will say that Aiden Hill, Biz is all over this guy. I mean, he's like talking like about how he's going to be the next fucking, I don't know, Vasilevsky or whatever. Not actually, but I'm paraphrasing there. But he's really big on him. I don't know much about him. I know he played in Arizona. I know he had some decent numbers and he got some starts. I guess he's got a lot to prove. Biz thinks he will. We'll see. I like the additions of Bonino and Cogliano. I think it kind of gives them a little more of like a veteran chippy identity. Guys who have been there, done that, know how to win. But other than that, man, I mean, I am not a huge fan of what's going on here. I don't know. I don't think the first line can carry.
If you thought you didn't know any names on the Kings defense, go take a look at just this Sharks roster and tell me if you can name 5 players on it.
Oh yeah, baby. Check this out. First of all, they've got Santeri Hataka, who doesn't appear to have a number yet. like on Daily Faceoff, they have the front of his jersey because I guess he hasn't chosen a number or
played in the NHL yet.
Right. So they just don't even know. And then we got Redeem Simek. We've got, Eric Carlson, Brent Burns. We've got Mario Ferraro. It's like, that guy's been bouncing around a little bit for the last couple of years, but
Vlasic's contract. I feel like all I do is hear about that. That's not between Burns, Carlson, and Vlasic. How much of that is tied up into their cap? I mean, it's crazy.
All of it.
It's bad. Yeah. And none of those guys are like top 15 D-man any longer.
Their
I honestly still like Burns' game. Like that is a D-man who I got a lot of respect for. I think he's a great fantasy player. He's good for prop bets too. Like he almost always he scores a lot of empty net goals. So
yes.
Bet him to score a goal and he might even cash
power play points too.
Right, exactly. But
I feel like they just went with they were like, let's have a really, really good right defense and then just forget the left.
For real. Burns, Carlson, Vlasic down the right side. You're like, oh, sick. And then Ferraro, Hataka, Simek. Like, was I just saying names right there or no?
I don't know.
I'm hip. It sounds like some type of concrete ingredient that
it does. Yeah.
Right. Ferraro, Hataka, Simek. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly don't have much more to say. I don't think this team is going to be very good, and I don't see them making the playoffs. The Pacific Division is really going to come down to the Knights finishing first, the Oilers finishing second, and then that third team is going to be the other team to get into the playoffs. And then I think both wild cards in the West are going to go to the Central. So whoever that third place team is, that's really the name of the game. If you guys are okay, I'd like to move on to the next team because I think they have a solid shot at being third.
Absolutely.
Yeah, why not? The door is open for the Kraken, simply because we don't know what we're going to get here. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be somewhere in the middle. But like we're talking about, the door is open. They've got the division to benefit their chances here. They've got a lot of room to rise to the top. I could see them being a third place team. I could see I don't know. It's not impossible for them to go on a run and finish second. It's also not impossible for them to be the worst team in the division. We have no clue what we're going to get with this team. What do you guys think though?
On paper, you could probably say this is one of the worst teams in the league. I think if you look,
I'm going to disagree with you.
I'm not saying Red Wings, Sabres, Coyotes type deal, but looking at their the third line test, Mac, looking at their third line, I go, that could be any other NHL's team's fourth line, and I wouldn't even blink twice. And then I almost said the same thing about their second line too.
Well, keep in mind, the COVID is taking it's taken into account on this chart that we're looking at on Face-Off. So, I think McCann is going to have a monster year personally.
And I do too, because I think he'll get a ton more ice time, and I think he'll be playing with some decent players. You guys said it. You nailed it. It's kind of a question mark. What's going to happen with these guys?
Wait, I just scrolled down to their injuries, and I didn't realize that they have Yanni Gord, Kalle Yarncroke, and Jonas Donskoy.
Yeah, dude, they're
if those three guys were in the lineup, which I don't know when those three guys are set to return, if at all, or what the deal is there. But if you add those three guys in and replace their three worst guys, probably
then it's a totally different story. Yeah, I'm saying if you look at this lineup that they have now, where their first line is Schwartz, Wenberg, Eberle, you go, oof, doesn't inspire a ton of goal scoring confidence.
Listen, when this draft happened, I was like, what the fuck are they doing? Yeah. And everybody going into the year is like, this is not going to be Vegas, and it won't be. They're not going to go to the Cup, so don't get me wrong.
No.
But I legitimately think that this team could finish third in this division.
Yeah.
And
I don't think that's too far off to say.
No, I think they're deep. I really do. Not as in goal scoring, but they don't really have a slouch. I think their fourth line is not that far off from their first line, which I'm not saying is a good or bad thing. It's probably a bad thing.
But it kind of gives you that next man up vibe.
Gives you that Islanders vibe. Yeah, they're deep. They don't have any slouches. They might not have a superstar, but I think that they can play a complete team game, something that Forever Blue Shirts loves to say, and I agree with them. Complete team game. I think that they can make some noise this year. And honestly, if they get the goaltending, you don't know where they could go. Grubauer had a sick year last year. Great, he played on the best team. Yeah, they both
No,
did.
they've got a really good
They
1-2 punch
got
and goal.
this role because of their performance last year.
I don't know. I could see them going third. I really can. I
I
think
think
them
their
and Calgary.
D sucks though. I actually like Adam Larson a lot. I think he's got the potential to be a solid man, but I don't love him as like your number one go-to defenseman. Like that's a little like I guess Giordano is probably their stud back there, but like
Yeah, why does it look like they accidentally put the first defense pairing like
I'm not
think
sure.
in the wrong
Daily
spot.
Faceoff they might not have that right, but either way, like Adam Larson, Carson Soucy, that's not like the.
I like the Vince Dunn move.
I do. I was gonna say people are sleeping,
and honestly, the Lausanne move too.
I am telling you,
their
defense, in my opinion, is better than Calgary's. I'm gonna say it. I mean, I know that's a hot take with Hannafin and all those guys back there, but
I think you might be right.
Hannafin, you can go ahead and say like, yeah, like you're good, but what have you done for me lately? Because ever since you left Carolina,
yeah, I mean,
they've also got Jamie Alexiak, but he's out.
True, yeah,
but he's out. I don't know, man. I don't listen. They're not gonna make the Stanley Cup. I think they're like a first round and out team, but I think a lot of people are underestimating these guys. And if Ryan Donato can just find his spot, he looked good for glimpses with Minnesota.
Or like with his like first 2 weeks with the Bruins, he was one of the best players in the league.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're going to finish third in the division. They're going to make the playoffs.
Interesting.
I think you're right. I would agree with you.
Ahead of the team that's next up on the list.
Who do we have? I'm sorry.
I think so.
Your boys from last season.
This is where it gets interesting.
Well, actually, I don't know.
So
this is a tough one.
The next team we have up is the Vancouver Canucks at plus 1,600 to win the division, coached by Travis Green, entering his 5th season. Last year, they went 23, 29, and 4. Man, didn't even make the playoffs. Obviously, the big news, they get the Hughes and Pedersen extension.
They also made a lot of this is a very different team than it was last year. They have a lot of guys that they did not have last year. Sort of like the Flyers. Like this is a team that missed and then was like, all right, fuck this. We need to do this way different next year. And they did not fuck around. They made a lot of moves. They bring Alex Chason in. They bring Jason Dickinson. They bring
OEL.
Yep. They
Connor
bring
Garland.
Yep, Justin Dowling. I don't think Luke Shen was there last year, or Tucker Pullman, or Yarrow Halak.
Correct.
I am torn.
Also, just remember real quick that Besser is on IR.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I am torn because
so is Brandon Sutter.
I can't tell if they're gonna actually live up to their potential, because I think that their top 6 is very good when you have Besser in there. I don't love Tanner Pearson on the second line, but when Besser's in there, that's a nasty top 6. I'm gonna say it.
I love Alex Chason on the top line with Elias Pettersson and JT Miller.
I could not agree more. I think that is a great move.
That guy is a sniper. He's fast as fuck. Like I have to use the F word there because it's the only way to describe how fast that man is.
And if you think about it, it's kind of like, his game is a little bit similar to Besser's. You talked about he's a big shot guy, comes down the wing, pulls up and lets it go. That's Alex Chason to a T.
He can literally get the puck off his stick in like half of a blink of an eye. Like it's just gone and in the top corner before. It's like an Alexander Semin type shot. Like it's just gone and in the top corner.
So Demko, it's really what this is going to come down to, because the reason I like the Kraken a lot, I'm a fan of that 1-2 punch. I mean, if Grubauer is starting to slouch, Treager is perfectly capable of stepping right in. That's the one major advantage I think they have over the Canucks. I know Demko has played very well up to this point, but can he do it as a true number 1 for 82 games?
I think
it's a question mark.
It is a question mark, but I think with having a backup that's as ready to jump in when called upon as Halak, I think he's going to be okay.
I was going to say, I love Halak as a backup. He did a great job last year for when Rask was on and off IR and stuff. Anytime Halak went in, he shut it down. I think he had a couple of shutouts last year. I remember him screwing up some overs for me because he just would not let the puck in, and it was really pissing me off. No, I think he's the kind of guy that like still wants to kind of be a starter, even though he's like a little older now. Like he's gonna battle and he's gonna want to play. And yeah, I like having him behind Demko. But I agree with you, Harry. We don't know what we're gonna get from Demko in a full season.
Do you
It'll
guys think? Oh, I'm sorry, Mac.
No, that's it. It'll be interesting.
Do you think that who finishes higher in the standings, the Canucks or the Kraken? I think that's what this is coming down to. I'm going to say the Kraken, but not by much. Maybe
I'm
like
going to
2
say
points.
the Canucks right now, just because they have less people that are hurt and goaltending.
Okay.
I'm gonna say the Kraken, but not by much. I'm gonna agree with you, Harry.
I like
Okay.
like this could very easily be like a 2-point difference between these two teams.
And Nick, I think you're taking a smarter and probably less risky pick. The Kraken could fucking suck. I mean, I told you, they're my first instinct.
Or
on
they
paper.
could be second in the division. Who knows?
Right, exactly. But for the sake of time, we're going to move on to the next team. Clear-cut favorites to win the division, the Vegas Golden Knights at -200 to win this year's division. Coached by Pete DeBoer, entering his 3rd season. Last year, you know what happened. They went to the semifinals, lost to the Habs. They won the division, they were second in the division last year. Obviously, the big storylines so far, the departure of Marc-Andre Fleury. It is now Robin Lehner's cage. He's going to have to prove that as a true number 1 for 82 games with Laurent Brossoit backing him up. You know, it's a lot of pressure on Lehner.
Look at
here,
that
so.
French. That was good.
Thank you. I've been working on it. I still can't say
Wait,
cock
wait.
and though. Boys, I don't think I need to say much here. These guys are a lot of people's Stanley Cup favorites, a lot of President's Trophy winning picks here. I mean, everybody kind of knows their lineup of how deep they went last year. Pacioretty, Stone, Marchessault, Carlson, Smith, Nolan Patrick comes over. You obviously have Pietrangelo named to Team Canada already. Shea Theodore had a monster season last year.
Peyton Krebs showed signs of being a pretty dangerous player last year.
And he's healthy now. That's the
and
key.
He's healthy.
Dadonov.
So forget saying if they're going to make the playoffs. I think we can all agree that's going to happen.
I will say they have one guy on their team that falls into that who the hell is this guy category that we've been kind of laughing at this episode, and I just want to say his name real quick, and that is Pavel Dorofeyev.
Nice. That was good.
That was good.
I didn't realize they had Dadonov now.
Yeah, that's
love that.
Yeah. What do you think about this third line? Peyton Krebs, Nolan Patrick, Evgeny Dadonov.
Oh,
I
smell trouble.
That could pass the test. Yeah,
I smell trouble there.
But I don't have a whole lot to say. I think everybody knows what you're getting with this team. They're a Stanley Cup contender. They're up there with the Colorados, the Islanders, the Leafs. Some people throw out there the Lightning. They're right up there with the upper echelon of the NHL. So, I mean, I guess I'm going to ask the question because this is really where we're going. It's cup or bust. Do you think they have what it takes to win a Stanley Cup?
No.
I don't either. And you want to know why? And I'm really not trying to be a homer here, but I could see Lehner falling off the face of the planet. And I hate to say that because I like him and I like that he's outspoken. But
if we were going into last season, which was 56 games?
Yeah.
With Lehner as the starter, I feel a lot better than I do about them going into the season for 82.
Yeah. And he's had injuries too. And I don't know, it's been a minute since the Knights have not had 2 insanely good goalies. You know what I mean? I think that they're really going to feel Marc-Andre Fleury's loss on back-to-backs when they've got Brossoit in. And I'm not saying he's a bad goaltender because he played more than fine in Winnipeg, but he's no Marc-Andre Fleury and he's no Robin Lehner either. I think that, it's a big drop off having Robin Lehner and Laurent Brossoit than it is having Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner. And once again, that's not the knock Brossoit. It's just Marc-Andre Fleury is Marc-Andre Fleury.
And I think we pretty much covered it, right? Are they a cup contender? Yes. Will they win it? I think all 3 of us are agreeing no. And personally, as your financial advisor on this podcast, I would not take a division winner at -200. I don't think it's worth the value. I think you're much better off taking the Oilers or the Canucks or the Kraken or somewhere in there. But realistically, yeah, this team should win the division.
You shouldn't take any future pick that's like minus 200. It's just not worth your time or your money. My question to you guys is, let's look at the forward core for a second. Love the third line. Second line is solid. They've been together for Jesus, how long now? It feels like
I know. It's awesome. I love
years.
that. I love it.
My question comes to you guys on the first line. You got guys on the wing. You got Pacioretty on the left that they brought in from Montreal. You got Stone on the right that they bring in from Ottawa. Chandler Stevenson as a first line center in the NHL does not seem like a recipe for success to me. I love Chandler Stevenson. I think he's one of the nicest guys in the world. Obviously played a huge role in the Caps winning the cup in 2018. Do you guys think they make a move for a more established number one center, or do you think they try and ride out the season with him?
I disagree, Gary. That's for all you Uncut Gems fans out there. But I disagree. I think Chandler Stevenson is actually going to emerge as one of the top centers in the league this year. And I am confident in saying that. I think that this is a dude who very quietly had an amazing season last year. He got top power play minutes. He had great production numbers. He was scoring like a couple points a week at minimum for a while. He was like around a point a game, maybe even slightly above that at one point. I think he's the kind of guy that has so much speed, and he seems like he's got a good hockey IQ. Like he just seems like he's got a really good feel for like where his teammates are on the ice and like where he needs to be. He's a great center because he plays the full length. You see him making great plays in his own zone and in the offensive zone. And I actually think that he's going to hold up just fine for them. I could see like this line kind of getting the same minutes as the second line. Like I think their 1 and 2 lines are both more than capable of being like first lines.
1A, 1B kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, if you think of it that way, it's almost like Chandler Stevenson and William Karlsson are sharing the role of like number one center on the team in a way. And I think that is more than enough to be.
I think you make a great point about his hockey IQ, and I couldn't agree with you there more. I think my question comes into, he did all those things last season. He was an awesome fantasy player. If you're a fantasy hockey player, I mean, this guy was absolute money.
I am trying to see if I can trade for him already because I want him on my team.
But can we do this for a full 82 now? Obviously 56 and 82 with an Olympic break are completely different animals. I think that's more where my questions lie with it.
And I agree, Nick, I see what you're saying. I think Vegas is weird. The way that they structure their cap, they don't have a shit ton of money bought into like a star center, like a traditional, successful team would. That being said, I think Stevenson is capable of playing first line center, especially with those two on his wing. I mean, that helps a lot. But, I think he's like a 50 to 60 point guy, and that's fine. He doesn't have to be a 100-point first line center. I think he's perfectly fine just how he is. I think he plays well both ways, which I think is also really important, especially when you're playing with Mark Stone. I think he'll be all right. And, I don't think he's going to be the weakness in the Vegas lineup, if you will. So
certainly not a weakness in there. What do you guys think in terms of this team's sort of window? Because I feel like that's all we, start to talk about that, ever since they went to the cup final in the offseason and the preseason, all you talk about is this team's window. Is that window closing? When is this, season of doom with these contracts going to come down on top of them? I mean, we know they're going to have to make, sacrifices in that regard. How many more years do you give this team with this core?
I don't fully transparent. I don't know how all the contracts line up, but when I look at the core of this team, they're not like super old yet. So I'd say they probably have another 3 years. Again, no idea what the contract situation is, but I'd say like 3 years before you start saying, all right, maybe Petro's getting, more miles on his body, can't log all those minutes. Pacioretty's got, he's had some serious injuries in the past and he's logged a lot of miles.
Or someone comes calling with an offer that, you can't refuse.
I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe like 3 years. Mac, you agree?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I think anything over than 3 and it's kind of over. Not that they won't be good, but that this core won't be around. It won't look like the same team.
Well, I believe that wraps up our Pacific Division previews. If you're still with us, God bless your soul, because we are about to move on to the Central. Make it nice, quick, and easy for the first team. I'm going to let Nick take this one away.
Yeah, this is going to be a not good hockey team this year.
2 minutes tops, please.
Yeah, let's just put it that way. Andre Tourigny comes into his first season as the Yotes coach. They are plus 9,000 to win this division. That's all you need to know about them. Their big keys right now, their emerging young core. We can take a look at their lineup and realize that they're going to actively try and insert young guys into this roster. And honestly, if they don't, I don't think they're going to be successful. Guys like Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, they're left wing and center on the first line. They need to step up. They need to have good seasons. They're going to put a ton of emphasis on Lawson Krause and Barrett Hayton and Christian Fisher on their second line to see if those guys can produce scoring. Third line, Mac, Mr. Third Line Test. What do we think about this one?
Hey, I love my man, Jay Beagle. I think he's still capable of being a third line center in the league. However, we have no idea what we're going to get with Dmitry Yaskin making his return to the NHL. Christian Fischer, yeah, he's a good player. I like what I've seen from him. This is not a third line that can, win a Stanley Cup simply because this is not a team that can even make the playoffs. But there's worse third lines in the league than this one, I think. I do like that their number 3 and number 4 centers are both former Washington Capitals. I mean, you can't really go wrong there. So
their best offseason move was bringing back their white Kachina jerseys.
And they're going to look
100%.
great.
Yeah,
they're going to look great.
They'll be the best looking team on the ice all year.
And off the ice with their relaxed dress code now, too.
True.
Kind of cool
that
to
was
see.
another good one.
Yeah, that was good.
Other than that, fellas, I mean,
real quick, you can talk about the defense, but yes, Mac, you're exactly right. It's the goaltending. Who in the hell is Josef Koronar?
That sounds like a meteor.
I think that guy was subbing for my beer league team last week or something like that.
Yeah. It's like something in the asteroid belt that they name or some shit like that. I don't know what that is.
That's why, Mac, that's why you guys won 3-0.
Yeah. He had a shutout in men's league.
Yeah. Long story short, with this team, you're going to get a great face-off guy in Beagle. The question is, can Schmaltz and Hayton, 1, stay healthy, and 2, be enough down the middle for you? But I can already answer that. It's not.
All of their centers are third line centers.
Absolutely.
Literally all 4 of them. Nick Schmaltz, Johan Larsson. Come on. Johan Larsson is your second line center. Come on. I'd almost rather have Travis Boyd up there.
I think I would. Let's go ahead and move on to the Chicago Blackhawks. I think we kept that around 2 minutes, Harry. But these guys are plus 1,700 to win the division. And I'm going to go ahead and say this now. In terms of value, could actually happen pick, this is probably the one to do it on.
Do it. Listen to me right now. Do it. They're winning this division. I swear to God. I think that this team is about to wow people, and I might eat my words. They could even miss the playoffs. I could be wrong, but I've got faith in the Blackhawks. I think I'm a huge Fleury guy. I made sure to draft him in I want to say the second or third round the other night in fantasy. I love rooting for him. I have all the confidence in the world in Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't care if it's a change of scenery. I don't care if he's playing for a worse team now than he was the last couple of years. The defense in front of him is a little bit suspect. That is probably their biggest weakness. But I think their forward core is sick. Kane, Tyler Johnson, and Alex DeBrincat, that's awesome. Kubalik, Taves, and Khrushchev, I think that's going to be also pretty lethal. Kirby Dach is their third line center. I love that. I think that screams production from top down. Their defense is going to be the question mark for sure.
Do not sleep on Henrik Borgstrom either. You want to ask someone about how good this kid is, go ask Tarek Hammond, former guest of the program. He played with him and won a national championship with him at Denver. This guy is awesome. Lights out. Never got the look in Florida that I feel like he deserved. Comes over here, and this team made so many smart moves this offseason. Tyler Johnson's now your number 1 center. I mean, where did that come from?
They've also got Hand and Bagel. I mean, Brandon Hagel.
I think 2 things. 1, if Taves stays healthy, this team can go places. 2, back end little sus. it's okay. I don't think it's horrible. I don't think it's great.
They got Seth Jones though.
It's
They got
really
Seth
just
Jones.
it's the third pair that I'm worried about.
I'm
Yeah.
a little. I sometimes worry about the second pair. I'll be honest too. Jake McCabe, Connor Murphy. I guess we'll see. But
You know who else they did get real quick while we're on defense is Seth Jones' brother, Caleb,
That is
Right.
who is
interesting,
still
yeah.
up and coming.
but you got Flower. I mean, I love that Vezina winner, fresh off that Vezina season. He can bail out that decor a lot. Blackhawks are a dark horse, man. I think that they could make some noise. A lot of people are I hate to say it, but you know how like we're all saying they're dark horses, they're underrated. Well, they're not really a dark horse if everyone's saying they're a dark horse,
Yeah.
and now everyone's starting to say they're a dark horse. So they're going to be a trendy team this year. In the past, Blackhawks overs have always been like a ritual of mine. I don't know if that's the same this year with Flower there. I think he's going to
that's
play
a
really
question
well,
mark.
but I think this team is going to be a playoff team. I do.
It's definitely a question mark, but you could always just wait until games that they, don't start him. I mean, there were a couple games in Vegas where we would jump on the Vegas over, but I 100% agree with what you're saying.
I have a real
Although
dark
Kevin
horse.
Lankinen played pretty well last year too. I
He
actually
did.
And I
He
think
did.
this is awesome for him to have a chance to be mentored by Fleury for a year, even if it is just for 1 year. Like that's only going to grow that kid's game as well. So
For sure.
I think I've got a good dark horse. That actually is a dark horse. So
Power play looks great. Taves, Johnson, Kane, DeBrincat, and Jones. Those guys can absolutely wire the puck. Also love the fact that I'm pretty sure Kane, Jones, and DeBrincat will all be on the Olympic team together this year. So that's got to
wow,
be
that's
great.
really cool.
Also want to take a look at the second power play unit here for a second. Borgstrom, Doc, Kurashev, Mitchell, and Kubalik. Do not sleep on that.
I don't hate that at all. Yeah. There's a lot of snipers on that unit.
For sure. Let's go ahead and move on to the favorite without question for this division, and that is going to be the Colorado Avalanche. They finished last season first in the Honda West Division, ended up losing to the Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup playoffs in the second round. Guys, what are your first impressions with this team? Because people have been saying a lot of stuff about this team, from forward depth to defense to goaltending. What do you think of when you hear Colorado Avalanche this season?
Overhyped.
ooh, I don't know about all that, but they're hyped. They're very hyped. Are they overhyped? I mean, they're definitely a top 3 team in the league, I would say. Mac, maybe you feel differently. I think it's Tampa, Colorado, and you could kind of pick your third, but
Vegas.
they got to. Yeah, I mean, I think Colorado's got to be in there. But they're stacked, dude. And now that I'm saying that maybe they're not overhyped, I'm about to say something that's incredibly overhyped. So I guess that's ironic. But they strike me as a team who could maybe break like that Tampa points record regular season. Like they're that good.
It's going to come down to that. I mean, that question is going to be answered with defense and goaltending, I think.
Yes, I think Kemper.
Can we talk
Kemper.
about their forward depth for a second? Like, am I missing something? Because please look at their third and fourth lines.
I like their third and fourth lines, to be honest.
Alex Newhook, Tyson Yost, and Sampo Ranta.
Newhook and Yost, they can play, man.
They can.
They're really good. I don't know much about Ranta, but Newhook is nasty.
Colorado's big problem with Tyson Jost is that they were like, here comes this sick stud out of North Dakota. Let's slap him on the first or second line instantly all night. And it just hasn't worked. I think he'll find his game here this season. I know he's been up and down, in and out, that kind of thing, but
don't forget MacKinnon's missing from this list.
he is missing from
that's
this
fair.
list.
That is fair.
So I think with this, you can kind of just assume that Ranta would bow out in this situation.
And like Berkey would be on the third line, or like Nikushkin maybe would
If
be
I
one of those
remember
two.
correctly, they've always had Berkey on like the second line.
Yeah, honestly, he's like one of the biggest pieces on this team for sure.
He is.
He is.
And I love Darren Helm on there. I think that's a great veteran grit son of a bitch to play against. Good penalty killer, block shots.
It replaces the speed they lost when they lost Alex Kerfoot.
Yes. The defense. We have to chat.
Yeah.
They arguably have the best defenseman in the NHL, at least from an offensive perspective. I think Makar is surefire going to be leading the league amongst defensemen in points this year. He's going to be a monster. Jack Johnson, though, why? Like, what was the purpose of that? I keep reading all these Twitter comments like, dude, what is wrong with you? Granted, he might not start. This doesn't show Devon Taves in the lineup, and he's huge for them. So
He's hurt right now, I believe.
he's hurt, but that defense is loaded. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna throw that word out there. They are fucking loaded. So
Gerard, McCarr, Byram, Eric Johnson, Ryan Murray.
I think Murray's about to have
Dave.
like a bust out year, and I say bust out with all intentions of what that word means.
And I think Taves, when he comes back in the lineup, he's obviously one of the best skaters in the league on the back end. So, yeah, man, this team's sick. They're the odds-on favorite to win the Stanley Cup. They're minus 250 to win the Central Division. Again, financial advisor, not actually. You're not going to put money on a minus 250 to win a division. So stay clear of that. I guess my question to you, Nick, are they your Stanley Cup pick?
No.
Okay.
I picked them.
I feel like I don't need to ask you. I think you've made
I don't think they are. No.
Okay.
And I think for the last 2 seasons, at least at the beginning, they have been for me. I could be getting that wrong. I know they were 2 years ago.
You're just tired of it now.
I still have questions, man. I do. And I said this about the Leafs, and I'm going to say this about the Avs right now with a little bit more difference in my mind. But this team gives me early Washington Capitals vibes. It gives me 2010 Caps bowing out against the Habs vibes, where it's like you look at it on paper and you're like, oh my God, this team is so loaded. You know, Ovechkin, Backstrom, Semin, Green, Johansson, all these guys.
Right.
I don't know. There's just something that that doesn't inspire confidence to me from this team. Third round playoff team without question.
I think that their exit from the postseason this past playoffs, it made me feel like they were really close. You know, like it was the kind of like really good effort, still lose kind of things where it's like, okay, they're close for sure.
And I think you could say that about their last 2 exits.
Yeah, like you've sensed the frustration for sure. I mean, what was it? Was it MacKinnon saying like, "What do I have to do?" Like, like he's frustrated. I get it.
Because what else does he have to do?
Yeah. And I get it. So I think they're close. And they very well could win the Stanley Cup this year, but I just have a feeling that they won't. If that makes sense. I don't know. Just a gut.
No, you gotta go with your gut. Let's move on to the next team.
Alrighty, so up next we have the Dallas Stars, a team that the Avs have run into in the playoffs a couple times recently. Rick Monis comes into his 3rd season. Last season, this team finished 5th in the Discover Central Division and did not qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs after making it to the Cup final the year before.
I love Rick Bowness.
Awesome guy.
Awesome guy. Awesome name. I'm rooting for him for sure. Their goaltending is cool, in my opinion. I don't know if it'll be like one of the top tandems in the league, but I like it going into the year. I have faith in Anton Hudobin, and I have faith in Nhlpa to bounce back. I just don't think that Vancouver was right for him for whatever reason. I don't know that Dallas will be right for him either.
I don't know why I thought he would take to it like a duck to water, but
it's a toss up. I like the decor playing in front of him probably equally as I did in Vancouver. Like neither one of them is really super impressive. I don't know. The Stars are a weird team. Like they're kind of like that kitchen sink team. You know what I mean? Like they're like you want to make a smoothie, but you only have one banana, a handful of raspberries, and an apple, and you're like, that's not really what's supposed to go.
Like your fridge in college. It's like, what can I make today out of one piece of bread, a piece of cheese, and a beer? I guess
this is a team. You know, I guess this is a meal type of thing.
we are a team.
Yeah, but I don't know. They could be good. Third line test is suspect. Michael Raffle, Radek Faksa, Denis Gurianov, but also all 3 of those guys have been pretty darn good at points in their careers. So I don't know. This team is a big question mark in my opinion, which I feel like I keep copping out and saying shit could go either way or whatever. But this is definitely one of those that I'm I don't know what the future holds for this team.
It is it, and I like Gurianov on the third line. I think he could probably go somewhere else and realistically be a second liner. I think, you look at the defense on this team. You have Lindell and Heiskanen on the first pair, Suter and Klingberg on the second pair. I think that's going to be one of the better second pairings out there in the league. Those guys are so smart. They move the puck so well. D to D passes between those two are going to be essentially, perfect the entire time. The question mark comes with that third defensive pair. That's something that I have a question about. And then, these guys technically have like 4 starting goaltenders when Ben Bishop comes back. So, it's just a question of what they do with that. And then I think Jason Robertson right now is day-to-day. That would be a huge loss for that team after the season he had last year.
This team is interesting. I think Sagan's health is going to play a huge role. To me, when I look at this division, I think, okay, Colorado sold. I'm pretty much sold on Chicago. I think they'll be a playoff team. I think they have the pieces. And then after those two, it gets interesting. You've got St. Louis, who we'll get to, kind of the same breath as Dallas, in my opinion. They're kind of the same culture, vibe, build up, whatever you want to say. I probably didn't use English there, but whatever. And then one team that I'm pretty big on and that we'll get to is the Jets. And the question is, how do those 3 teams battle against each other? Because Nashville, you know how Nashville is. They're not going to suck. Even if they finish, let's say they finish last in the division. That difference between last and third will be like 6 points. So it's all about how
they're annoying enough to hang around.
Yeah. They'll win games against teams that are better than them for sure.
So it's like, how do these teams fare up against each other? And I guess if Dallas is fully healthy and they get goaltending from some of their, what's the one-time wonders? I don't want to use that word, but guys from the past, they can make it places. Not one-time wonders. That wasn't the word, but guys who are kind of
guys who have, gotten a little bit cool over the last 2 or 3 seasons.
They're on the 14th hole.
Sure.
And they're about
Great
to tee
way to
off on
put
the
it.
15th. Yes. So I don't think Dallas is a playoff team, personally. I think that they've made some good news. I love the Suter move, Nick. I like what you said about crisp D-to-D passes the entire time, but I just don't see it. I think that there's better teams right now, and I hate to say it, and I don't want to see it happen, but I haven't seen Sagan stay healthy for a long time. So I'm going to have to.
And that's the big key. And I feel like that's been the story of the Dallas Stars since we were talking about Brendan Morrow being on that team. It's like, you got to stay healthy. I mean, these guys deal with a ton of injuries every year. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, go ahead, finish up.
I was going to say, I can see him in, I could see him out. Who knows?
Yeah. I just wanted to add, you talk about a guy who's teeing off on the 15th hole. How about Jamie Benn? I mean, in my opinion, that guy is getting
He's got some miles too.
Yeah. I don't want to take too much away from him because he's definitely been, the guy. He's the captain of the team and everything, but he's not
won Art Ross when we were in like middle school, right?
I think so.
Yeah. It was no, I was in high school. I think it was like 2013. I think it was the year that the lockout where the Blackhawks won
the shortened season.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's kind of like, his style of play is kind of like Ovechkin light. You know what I mean? Like it's like he's a big rig forward that will hit you and also score really nice goals.
Yeah.
But
it's like Rick Nash and Ovi had a baby.
Exactly. Yeah. He is very comparable to like a Rick Nash kind of like, but he's just not quite as like.
Yeah.
I'm not even. I know what you mean.
Eric Lindros kind of play. Like what we were saying about Mantha. Big guy, can skate and has nasty hands.
I forgot about Minnie, by the way.
He's kind of falling off.
I forgot about Minnie when I was going through my list, who, by the way, is the next team and is I have no idea. I'm so lost on this.
God, we keep copping out. We're like, I don't know what the hell these teams are going to do. Don't ask us.
Speaking of the Wild, they come in at a plus 650 to win the division, coached by Dean Evison in his 3rd season, which I absolutely love. I think he should stay as their coach for like the next 10 years.
Yep.
Last season, they were 3rd in the West and lost to the Golden Knights in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Big talking point for this team in the offseason was get Kaprizov re-signed. They finally did. He's there. He's staying. Everyone in Minnesota can breathe. They also shed the 2 biggest things holding them back from being a successful hockey team, which was the Parise contract and the Suter contract. I know, Harry, you said you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with this team. I look up and down this roster and I don't have a ton of confidence in it. And then there's
So I'm not alone.
And then there's that part of me that goes, if they get hot, look out. They could do what they did last year.
I get Montreal vibes when I look at this lineup. Bunch of guys who, when you put it together, work well as a unit, they can do it. And I'm not putting them in the same breath, but when Montreal got Cole Caulfield, it brought that pizzazz, that star-studded skill that they kind of needed. I'm not saying he's as good as Kaprizov because we haven't seen Cole in an 82-game season yet, but that's kind of what I'm seeing here is they got that one stud forward that's really, really good. And the rest of the team, I just not sold with Ryan Hartman as a second line center. I'm sorry. I can't really buy that. I'm not picking that up. So I think the back end with Spurgeon and Dumba and Merrill and Brody and Goligoski, it's actually pretty good. I think the back end's pretty solid.
That top D pair with Goligoski and Spurgeon, look out, because that's where the offense on that first unit is coming from.
If John Merrill rocks the mullet this year, they make the playoffs. If he doesn't, then they don't. It's that simple.
Amen. I don't know. I think the back end's good. And usually with back ends that are good, you're going to see teams go deep. But, man, I just think they're weak on offense, and I'm going to be flat out. And I could be wrong. I kind of hope I'm wrong because I like Minnie, and I think their fans deserve better than what they've gotten. But I don't know. I don't see them really doing much.
I think I understand the concern for this team could be good, they could be bad, but I think when it boils down to it, I can name 3 teams in their division that I think will definitely finish above them. Let's put it that way.
That's a good way to put it. Harry, I totally agree with your point that, center depth is a question here. Eriksson, Ek, Hartman, Goudreau, Sturm down the middle doesn't inspire a ton of confidence. I know Eriksson Ek had a monster year last year and was one of my best fantasy pickups for sure. Hartman, I can see is passable on the second line. I don't know if I'm not ready to write him off yet, but I would look at this team to make a move at the deadline. They get 1 or 2 more pieces in here and you can start to talk about them making some noise, whether that's a second line center or another defenseman or something. I could see something happen. And don't forget that Matt Boldy is day-to-day and he could be inserted into this lineup.
I just want to say, unrelated, I have the game on my phone, and ESPN hockey in 5 seconds is so much cooler than NBC. It's not even funny. So just want to put that out there. And Jari's new pads look awesome, and I'm excited. I'm really giddy right now, so I apologize, but thank you. I'm sorry. I had to express that.
I asked, but yeah.
Good for you, buddy. Good for you.
Yeah, no, sorry. I just got really giddy when I saw everything.
What time does the blog come out tonight? That's all I want to know.
If he gives up more than 3 goals. He was 25-9 last year. People act like this guy stinks. I can't wait for him to prove everybody wrong. Anyways, let's get to Nashville.
I think Minnesota makes the playoffs just on their 4th line right winger alone. But yeah, let's move on to Nashville real quick. Moving on, so the Preds, John Hines comes in his 3rd season. They were 4th in the Central and lost to Carolina in the first round of last year's crazy ass Stanley Cup playoffs. I've said one thing about this team for the last 5 years, and that has been center depth. They have yet to address the number 1 center, who I've expressed my frustrations with.
You've been on him since the fucking demo episode.
Yeah, I don't think it's the right fit.
No, I don't either. I'll let you go on your thing. Though.
Second line center, third line center. Sure. Why not? I don't know why they continue to put Ryan Johansson as their first line center. I love the Cody Glass move on the third line coming over from Vegas. I think that was a great move for them. This is a young and up and coming player that, the Knights just couldn't really keep their hands on because of their contract issues and they had to let him walk. That third line test, Nick Cousins, I like that. And then Philip Tomasino, that's a young guy that could, insert a ton of spark into that lineup. But as with young guys, we just don't know. So it'll be a big question mark there. Where do you guys see this team ending up? Do you see them sneaking into the playoffs? I feel like that would be so typical of them, but let's not forget that no Pecorine this time around.
Yeah, I think they definitely could sneak in. much like the Wild, I think I can name 3 teams in their division that I am confident will finish above them. However, I think this is going to be a great team to bet the under on this year. They've got UC Saros, who loves letting in like 1 or 0 goals. Big save Dave Rittich is now their backup, which he showed signs of being able to hold it down as well. But I like their D too. I mean, they got Roman Yossi, they got Dante Fabro, they got Matthias Ekholm. Now they have Philip Myers. Alexander Carrier is not a terrible like 6th guy. Yeah, I don't know. I think that they'll be a good under team at the very least.
For me, we saw last year Chicago get kind of hot near the end there. And I think if they had Taves, and, obviously I think they've upgraded with getting Jones and Fleury this offseason. I think Chicago strikes me as the team who's going to take that playoff spot from them. I think
exactly. Yep. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Like, I think Chicago slides in instead of these guys just based off the offseason moves they made. I don't think that Nashville really got any better. They're still gonna be a pesky team. I like your under observation. In my opinion, they will not be a playoff team because I think Chicago is going to overtake that spot. So, and many, St. Louis and Nashville in my head, I'm like, what the fuck is different other than like the size of your fingernail? Like when you're comparing humans, like what is going on?
It's so true. Like one of those teams will probably make the playoffs. I don't know if more than one of them will.
Right.
But
exactly.
one of those 3 will.
Yeah.
Right. And pick your poison. I don't know, to be honest with you, but yeah, Mac, I'm going to agree with a lot of your assessments. And I'm just going to say, I don't think they're a playoff team simply because I think Chicago is going to be better. I think St. Louis might be better too.
Did you guys touch on Ellis at all? Sorry, I had to pee, but
he'd left. We mentioned he left, but yeah.
How much of a hole do you think that puts on their back end?
I was going through it saying that I actually think their D is pretty sound. I mean, you're definitely going to notice a guy like that being gone, but yeah, I was just saying that I think between UC Saros in goal for most of their games, and you still got Ekholm, you still got Yossi. I think their D is like relatively sound.
And I think, you give up Ellis, but you get a guy like Philippe Myers in there. And while you might sacrifice a little bit of Ellis's playmaking ability, you gain a ton of size and youth with Philippe Myers. Yes. And I think that is going to help them a lot going forward. I have a little bit of a question mark with that third D pairing, but I think we'll see how that goes.
Do you think they're a playoff team?
They're so typical with just finding their way to weasel into the playoffs lately. I'm going to go ahead and say yes.
I like your trend.
I think I could see them being a wild card team and getting in, just sort of hanging around.
If they get in, I think it'll definitely be wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to St. Louis. These guys come in at a plus 1,100 to win this division. Craig Berube, Chief, comes into his 4th season. Last year, these guys were 4th in the Honda West Division and lost to the Avs in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Guys, give me one word off the top of your heads to describe this Blues team.
Interesting. Is that okay? I mean, that's not much of a take.
It is a word, so yeah.
Yeah, I guess that works. It's a good word. It's like over 8 letters, I think, or something.
It is, so yeah. According to math, right?
Yes.
I don't want to use this word, but I'm actually going to say deep.
Ooh. Okay.
And I'm willing to defend that. I think that looking at the 12 forwards listed on Daily Faceoff, I actually think that they're pretty deep, like based on forward core alone. I mean, let's do the third line test here. James the Real Deal Neal, Robert Thomas, and Vlad Tarasenko. Whether or not that'll still be their third line at the end of the year is a big question mark. But right now, I kind of really fucking like that as a third line.
My word was going to be sneaky. Look at this forward core, man. I mean, that second line, Kyrou, Shen, and Buchnevich.
That's excellent.
You guys are kind of selling me. I'm buying it.
And love the addition of first line left wing Brandon Saad. It not only is it a giant FU to Blackhawks fans, but it's just, I think that is a great fit on an already pretty gritty first line.
And guess what? David Perron scores 20 goals all the time. Like he's such a consistent player, and I've got him on my fantasy team because he always like is on other people's teams and like fucks me. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to be that guy this year. I'm drafting this guy and I'm not going to regret it.
I like the back end too. You know, I think you guys are selling me. Usually when I come in with takes, I come in hot, and sometimes I can sell you guys. I'm pretty stubborn in that aspect, but you guys are selling me on this. And I think the Blues could be a very good underdog team this year on the money lines, just straight up.
Look at their power play units. The first one is Shen, O'Reilly, Perron, and then Krug and Tarasenko. And then their second unit is Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, Brandon Saad, Justin Falk, and Jordan Kyrou. My one question for this team is goaltending, because I don't really have a ton of confidence in Binnington. Like, I don't know.
He's streaky. He's streaky.
I think that he's
not the Binnington he was in 19. Let's be real. Last season looked off his game, I think, to be generous, but
I would want them to have somebody other than Ville Husso to turn to when Binnington goes on his inevitable like cold streak, you know.
2 X factors for me. 1, real deal Neil. Not expecting much, but if you can get 15 goals out of him, I hesitate to say 20, but you get him in that 15 range. That's 15 is a good number.
Yeah,
I think 15 solid. Jordan Kyrou, big year for the boy. I think he's going to have a monster year for them to make a lot of noise. I think he's probably the biggest X factor on the team.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Especially if he's getting second line minutes. I also think that third D pairing could be called into question, but I think if they
definitely,
if they play steady Eddie kind of hockey and just shut it down like the Blues like to do, I think they'll be okay.
I'm a Bortuzzo fan, biased, but yeah, I like Bortuzzo.
Yeah. Playoffs.
You guys might have sold me. I think out of that Nashville mini, I gotta go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna say yes.
I think over Nashville and over Mini, this team comes in as the wild card. For me, it's going to be Colorado, Chicago, and Winnipeg in some order as the top 3. And then I think this team sneaks in. Whether or not the other wild card will be in this division, I think there's a pretty good chance it will. But yeah, based on that, I think this team is one of the wild card teams. That's my prediction for the Blues.
Yep, I'd have to agree with you. All right, let's finish off with the last team in this division. That's the Winnipeg Jets. They come in at a plus 1,300 to win this division outright. Paul Maurice comes into his 9th season behind the bench, which I think he's one, the funniest guys in the league, but 2, I think he's one of the better coaches in the league. Last season, these guys were 3rd in the Scotia North Division and lost to Montreal in the second round. If you don't remember, that was a sweep for the Habs. Looking at this team on paper, I know, Harry, you said you were super high on these guys. I'm interested to hear why.
They are my dark horse. They are the equivalent of Mac, you called the Blackhawks as a dark horse in the midst of the offseason when they were making moves. So I credit you with that. You didn't hop on the bandwagon like a lot of people are doing. But I like the Jets, and I'll tell you why. I look at this team, and I think they have great winger depth, something you don't hear a lot of, but there's no slouches on this team, in my opinion. And the back end got improved dramatically. I said it earlier. I can't remember who the team was that we were talking about, but I compared them to Winnipeg with that one ace defenseman. And then the rest of the teams, you're like, who the fuck is that?
Was that Calgary?
Yes. That's no longer the case here. I mean, they got Nate Schmidt, who I think can be a great asset to a team like he was in Vegas. And then after, like, it just kind of fell off the wheels after that whole, like, steroid scandal thing happened, but never actually happened. I don't know. I think he's going to be great. Morrissey, you know what you're getting. Love Brendan Dillon. I know you guys do too. Big physical son of a bitch to play against. By the way, Yachtlender got his first Caps jersey, and he bought a Brendan Dillon jersey. Don't ask me why. Unrelated. Makes no sense to me, but whatever.
Like he just did that? Like
he just did it. He literally just picked it up. He's a moron. But you can find him at the boat show on the 14th. So kudos to him, I guess.
Look for the guy in a Brendan Dillon jersey.
While we're still talking about Dillon, I just want to throw in, I think this is such a good fit for him. Like his style of hockey and the Winnipeg Jets style of hockey is like the same thing, in my opinion. They play that big physical game, and he's going to fit in great there. Anyway, continue, Harry.
I like what I saw out of Nhlpa last offseason. Last 2, Dylan DeMello, Logan Stanley, young guys. Got to prove it, right? We'll see. I don't
Isn't
know.
Stanley another big boy? Isn't that dude like
Yeah, he
over
is.
6 foot and like 210 or something like that?
He
Yeah.
is. They're a heavy team. I mean, they're big guys. So I like that. I like the big builds in the playoffs, especially up front. And then
They've got a diehard fan base too.
they do.
Yeah.
But my big reasoning for why this team is going to be really good is the goaltending. I would say Hellebuck is a top 3 goaltender in the NHL. He's probably top 2 right after Vasilevsky. He's right there. I think John Gibson could be there if he was on a good team, but I love what Hellebuck.
There's your 1-2 punch for Team USA right there is going to be Hellebuck and Gibson. So
Yeah.
I love the goaltending. I think that they've made some good moves on the back end to, take some pressure off how many minutes Morrissey was logging, and they're big up front. Giannis Harkins he played really well last year. I mean, maybe not, his numbers aren't going to wow you, but it's like, okay, like if I watched enough Winnipeg Jets games, probably because they swept the fucking Oilers, but he was lights out in that series. He was throwing his body around. He was on the forecheck. I liked what I saw out of him. Andrew Kopp, good player. Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's going to have to do a little more than he did in the playoffs. I didn't really see a whole lot out of him.
And I honestly, I don't blame him all that much because he came over in the middle of a shortened, pandemic riddled season, and then
he had moments of looking himself like on the team. Like he had some superstar moments.
Let's not forget that he had to sit out for 2 weeks doing nothing before he could go back to skating. I mean, trying to do that in the middle of the season, I couldn't do that. Harry, you made a point earlier about this team saying you think they have wing depth, and I completely agree with you. I'd like to talk about their center depth.
Okay,
Shifley, Dubois, Lowry as your 1-2-3 punch down the middle. I love that. I think most teams would take that, without
Stastny
question.
too, right?
Yeah,
true. He can play center as well.
Yeah.
Wait, what the fuck? Why?
Well, Shifley's not in there because he's suspended still because of
correct.
Because that
correct
shit in the fucking.
I was looking at this. I was like, why isn't he there? I know Stasty's not.
Yeah.
LOL, no, they are deep
because of the playoff thing.
Yeah, they are.
But when they get him back, 3 games into the year or something like
they're
that?
They're deep and they're big. They're deep and they're
dangerous
big.
And I don't hate Riley Nash as a 4th-line center either.
No, I know we were saying that, it's a good value to take the Hawks to win this division. And, obviously it's pretty good chance the Avalanche are going to win the division. But if you want to sprinkle a little bit of money on the Hawks and on the Winnipeg Jets to win this division, I think that's a great idea.
10 to win 130. Why would you not?
Yep, exactly.
And then hedge it 3 other ways.
Right.
And then a guy who's had a great camp preseason, Ehlers. And I know you guys have been saying it in the group chat, but
he was dirty in fantasy last year too.
He's primed to go off this year. If he stays healthy with the speed, which by the way, I don't know if you guys have seen him skate, but he's like a hair or 2 behind McDavid.
He's fast
with the speed and the hands and the shot. I think we've got ourselves a real weapon there.
I'm choosing the Jets as my dark horse. So
all right, well, I got to ask you, who wins this division?
You'd be probably stupid not to say Colorado, but from a gambling perspective, I like the Jets.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
I was saying the Blackhawks, but honestly, I think I might have sold myself on the Jets this episode. I actually really like them as a pick to win the division. But yeah, I mean, still a high chance the Avs hold it out and do it.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I think that wraps it up for our division preview. Thank you to anyone that stuck with us through that. Hockey nerds, but okay. Let's quickly recap some signings. We mentioned that the Real Deal signed a 1-year ticket with the Blues. Jack Johnson signed a 1-year ticket in Colorado. The Rangers re-up Zibanejad on an 8-year deal with an AAV of $8.5 million. Alexander Barkov re-ups in Florida on an 8-year deal at $10 million per. Tyler Ennis gets a 1-year ticket in Ottawa at $900K. Galchenyuk signs a 1-year deal in Arizona after his PTO. And then Tampa Bay has rewarded their head coach, John Cooper, with a 3-year contract extension through the 2024-2025 season. Montreal, this came over the wire about 5 hours ago. They inked Nick Suzuki to an 8-year deal with an AAV of $7.8 million. Harry,
did you see what he said?
No.
Did you see his quote?
No.
I'm okay. I could be dumb, and there's a very real possibility that this was a meme account and I just saw it, but I'm pretty sure it was on Puck Empire. So I'm not fucking around here. He said it was like when he was negotiating, it was like putting GM mode on easy and I could get whatever I wanted. Is that a real quote?
Please look that up for me. Please find it and tell me because there is a fake Puck Empire account out there and it's like one letter is out of order. I'm sure you've seen it. It's like Puck Empre or something like that. They're hysterical and they do stuff like that all the time. So I want to know if it's them.
I'm going to feel so dumb.
While you're looking, Chicago re-signed Eric Gustafson. They brought him back on a 1-year deal at $800K. I love that move. I do not give up on that player. I think he's a stud.
Agree.
Real quick, we had a trade. Vancouver sent Olli Juolevi to Florida
Fake.
in exchange. I knew it.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Whoops. I prefaced my statement. Thank you.
Yeah,
Also-
you could barely believe it when you're saying it. You're like, but did he actually say that?
Yeah. A little high on that though, in my opinion, but yeah.
Yeah. Vancouver sends Olli Juolevi to Florida in exchange for Noah Juleson and Juho Lemiko. Some big injury updates to get to real quick before we wrap up. Colin White is going to miss 4 to 6 months for the Senators following a surgery on a dislocated shoulder. I feel so bad for this guy. I feel like ever since he got drafted, he's been battling, major injury after major injury. Quentin Byfield is out indefinitely for the LA Kings with a fractured ankle. We talked about that a little bit earlier. That's going to hurt them a lot. Canucks forward Brandon Sutter is sidelined for the foreseeable future as he deals with the effects of long-term COVID-19 symptoms. That comes from GM Jim Benning. He announced that on Monday. Washington Capitals center Nick Backstrom is going to begin this season on long-term IR. If you listened last episode, you know that's what Mac and I wanted to start the season. He continues to recover from an off-season hip injury. This means that Backstrom's going to miss at least the first 10 games of the year, and he is eligible to return to the lineup on November 6th. Mac, thoughts here?
Yeah, I think we got 2 pieces of good Nick Backstrom news today, which is partially why I'm rocking the Nick Backstrom reverse retro right now. But like you said, we got the news that he's going to go on long-term IR, and I say that's good news just because I think it frees up some room for the Caps to let, Hendrix Lapierre and Connor McMichael kind of have their chance for the first 10 games of the year. And the other good news is Nick Backstrom was on the ice this morning, and it sounds like that was the first time he's really joined the group. Even if it was just in a small way. I'm not sure, if I don't think he took full part in practice or anything like that, but he was on the ice, he was skating around, he was with the fellas. So I think that's great news. And this means that, yes, he's on long-term IR, but I do have faith we'll see him this season. I have faith we'll see him in the year 2021. I think things are looking up for that situation.
Could not agree more. I mean, while we're talking about it, it's the lineup for the Caps is out. Hendrix Lapierre, Connor McMichael, Beck Malenstein. They're going to make this team out of camp with Backstrom being hurt. I think we're all sort of under the impression that Lapierre is going to get the start on opening night. What are your thoughts on that?
I loved what I saw from Hendrix in the preseason, so I'm really excited for him. I've liked some stuff I've seen from McMichael as well. I think it's going to be really fun to watch what these guys can do for the Caps. I also think it's just it's what this team needs. We need a little bit of youth inserted in the lineup. The biggest problem is that our average age is 30 or something ridiculous like that, which I believe is the highest average age in the National Hockey League. We got to mix in some speed and some youth there. And I think Hendrix and Connor bring that to the table. I'm excited. I think it's good news.
Yeah. While we're on the subject of the Caps, I think it's worth noting that Ovi could play in the Caps opener tonight while you're listening to this. He's been day-to-day with a lower body injury after his most recent preseason game. Harry
on the ice today.
He was also on the ice today. Harry, Sid is practicing with the Penguins again and should be back within the first week of the season. He's not going to play the opening night. That comes to us from Emily Kaplan. Your thoughts on that so far?
You're all fucked. That's all I gotta say.
Oh boy. Oh well. All right. Austin Matthews is going to miss the first 3 games for the Maple Leafs this year. He is not 100% comfortable in playing after the wrist surgery he had in the offseason. And then the Leafs are also going to be without winger Ilya Mikheyev for approximately 8 weeks due to a broken thumb, which he got in the last preseason game. So sucks to be a Leafs fan right now. I mean, just
Little bit,
doesn't,
yeah.
And always.
yeah, well, of course, and always, but yeah, not good news right now if you're a Buds fan.
No, and I just want to say, this is dropping Wednesday. You got to listen quick if you want some tips from me for the gambling section tomorrow. But typically, I love Leafs overs on opening night. They do play Montreal. Carrie Price not going to be in net, but with Austin Matthews, and I'm hearing Mitch Marner's now hurt too. I ain't taking that, staying shy, but
It's all right. Tyler Toffoli is going to score a hat trick, and he'll cover the over by himself.
I do want to chat a little bit now that we're done all the news shit. Let's get to the juicy stuff here real quick. Let's make some money. Predictions for Caps Rangers. Before we get to that, Pens Lightning on right now. I apologize if I've been staring back and forth. We've got about 8 minutes left in the first, and the Pens are actually holding their own, and they're actually playing pretty well. So we'll see what goes down.
Still
I had
0-0?
0-0.
I had Kapanen plus 300 to score a goal. Jason Zucker just broke his ankle off for the year. So what the fuck else is new in my life? You gotta be kidding me, man.
Wait,
Okay.
are you serious?
Dude, no, he's can't walk. We'll see. But I had Kapanen plus 300 to score. I think Kasperi Kapanen is a breakout player this year. Zucker is actually dead. Holy shit.
Just put that in the blog later.
Yeah, I think I'm going to. The season over. Zucker dead. Thank you. But yeah, I think Kapanen's gonna have a big year this year. Bolts are probably gonna take this one. Pens were plus 230 at one point. And I mean, shit, if you can get the Penguins that low with Sully as our coach, I think that's worth dabbling on. But what we're all waiting for, the watch party tomorrow, the most anticipated opening night game that I can remember in my lifetime. I've got group chats with fire coming out of each other's assholes just trying to kill each other. So I am really excited for this one. I'm more excited to watch that than I am this, honestly.
I love that that's a home game for the Caps too. I'm so excited to crank my TV volume all the way up and just hear Cap One just cheer in, hear the horn guy doing his thing.
Instead of that
yelling,
stupid dump right next to the subway station. I mean, what a joke.
All the guys cheering for
predictions.
Shit and...
Rangers are plus 130. I think Caps are minus 120 right now.
I'm not gonna lie, from a gambling perspective and trying to separate myself totally from the situation, being an absolute diehard homer, I think Rangers money line is a very tempting bet. I won't be taking that because I'm not going to sit there and root for the Rangers, obviously. But if you're out here and you don't particularly care who wins the game and you just want to win a bet, I would probably advise you to take the Rangers money line. I think that they are coming into this way more butthurt about this whole situation than the Capitals are, which might work to their favor just because, I don't know, I think they're coming out. They've got something to prove. They're pissed off about the whole situation last year with Panarin, Wilson, all that stuff. But, it's one of those things. It's Caps Rangers. It's a tough one to pick. I might advise you just to not bet on it at all. Just enjoy the game because it's going to be a great one. But
what about that over?
What about the over on fights?
Yeah, or
that one for sure.
I want to find a fights bet. Where the hell do I find that? It's probably minus 10,000, but it is worth also noting they have Tenorti up in the lineup for this one. So usually that's Neil Slunquist's spot. Not tomorrow. And I think there's one reason why they got Tenorti in there. So
and is Reeves going or not?
Reeves is good.
Okay.
Is he actually? I thought they said
going.
no. Oh wow.
No, he's going.
All right.
Is Ovi going?
I think so. It hasn't been fully announced, but I would think so.
Okay. I am excited. And this is gonna be a fun one. I'm super pumped. I think we need to do a round table at the end of the week on this one. This would be good.
Did you guys get to see that Ovi and Backstrom commercial?
I did.
Great. So good. The NHL,
good. Yeah.
What is the NHL's got on ESPN? We got funny commercials now.
All three of them did a great job.
Oh, fantastic.
They all actually were really good.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, this has been a long one. Thank you for your patience with me and the fans and everything else. So
we'll see you tomorrow too.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see you tomorrow night at Don't Know Tavern. I am super pumped for that first live event for us with fans. So
yeah, please, if you're listening to this right now and it's October 13th and you're looking at your watch and you're like, oh shit, wait, they're talking about an event that is literally only a couple of hours away. Stop, get in your car, or if you're already in your car going the other way, hop a Yui, go to Don't Know Tavern, have some fun with the boys. It's going to be a great time. Please go.
And if you need, this is just a little tip, if you're, not in the city a lot or whatever, parking's tough sometimes on the street. Put it in your GPS, go to West Street Garage. If you put in West Street Garage, follow what your GPS says. I think it'll probably cost you like $9 for the night or something like that. That's probably your best bet to find parking, and you won't have any side swipe issues or anything like that. So it's a good bang for your buck, in my opinion.
Yeah, great call. Super looking forward to that. I'm going to eat like my body weight in wings and beer, I think. So
Yep. Same here. All right, everybody. Well, hockey is upon us. This is going to be a fun season. Obviously, today was a preview episode, so there was some things that we might do in the future that we didn't do this episode, but we're going to have a lot of fun this season. It's going to be a great ride. So we're happy to have you guys join us. And we really feel like this is a big momentum season for us. So we're going to give you all we got. And other than that, I don't have anything else. So without further ado,
class dismissed.